What's up? What's up, everyone? Last Things live stream here. Charlie Looker. Gonna have James Krendel-Clark here in a minute. He's already waiting in the wings. If anyone, I will say this right off the bat, just unrelated to the stream. The Last Things Discord is fun. I'm being a little more public about trying to hype it up. At first, it was kind of just invitation only, but I kind of realized that the only people who want to be, and it's sort of self-selecting, right? I mean, it's a self-selecting kind of affair. So there's no reason to be that exclusive about it. Anyone who proactively hits me up about doing it is probably going to be the right person to be in it. So yeah, Last Things Discord, hit me up on Twitter, on Instagram. Yeah, either of those if you want in on that. I'm gonna make another announcement, which is that I haven't launched it yet, but before the end of the year I'm gonna be launching a Patreon. And this channel, it's already in this vibe, but I'm kicking this into high gear, and for it to stay in high gear I'm gonna need to have some, like, a trickle of income here, because I'm just psyched. I have just so much stuff I want to do. As far as, I mean, it's going to be live streams every week. You know, that's going to be, so it's going to be like a real podcast episode every week, live stream every week. And then the sort of the high budget or whatever, the high effort educational infotainment stuff semi-regularly as well. That stuff takes a lot of time. I love doing it. Love. But I'm gonna need to do this, have a Patreon thing coming in with some income if I'm gonna actually kick it into high gear like that. So whatever, I'll officially announce that, drop that, make that thing happen probably next month or in December. And other announcements are Extra Life is touring the UK and France in January. We're gonna do like 3 weeks of shows pretty much. Got some cool shit lined up in the UK and France. People are psyched. It's just great to be hitting everyone up, and just like almost all these promoters, they remember Extra Life from like 10 years ago, you know, and they're just like, yeah, we've been waiting for you to reunite, so come on over. So it's been it's a very promising reunion tour. So that's exciting. And yeah, I've got a classical piece that I'm going to drop a recording of on cassette probably before that tour. And the actual physical LPs, the double LPs of the new Extra Life will be done, they will be manufactured by November, mid-November, I think. So yes, all those pre-orders will go out then. All right. That's pretty much it as far as just getting caught up. Yo, we got Crom in the comments. Yeah, let's just bring him in. James Krendel-Clark, author, theorist, artist, friend for a while. James, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
I feel like I'm at a weird angle. Okay.
Your angle's looking good. We're pretty similar. Like our heads are the same size here.
I just got, this stuff on the walls is kind of weird, but it's a bunch of tarot cards and shit. And
yeah, I mean that's like the True Detective like wall of figuring stuff out.
yeah. At the point I was like riffing on that very trope in the way that I was putting stuff on the wall. I was using like string. And
yeah.
I was.
But consciously, like deliberately, though.
Yeah, like to make it look like a serial killer's room, but
yeah,
it didn't end up going anywhere. I was thinking of making like a short film and playing a serial killer, but
I mean, it looks exactly like
not my
that.
process is though. It's like I'm like the guy from Memento or something.
I actually have not seen Memento. Is that
it's so good. Or I'm really obsessed with it right now.
Yeah, is that Tom Cruise? I forget what that is.
No, I forget the actor's name, but it's kind of a goofy movie, but it's like it's just funny because it's like he has no short-term memory, so he has all these tattoos that remind him. And it starts with him. He has these Polaroid photographs, and one of them says, like, "This is the guy. Don't believe his lies. Kill him." And it's like, and he like keeps forgetting, but then he keeps bringing it out. He's like, oh yeah, like I got to kill that guy. And that's the whole movie, is like him killing that guy, but he keeps forgetting it, even though he has a tattooed all over his body, like all these different reminders related to that.
Well, he's like a sick, he's like a sick hitman, but with
Well,
amnesia, or what?
well,
Or
it's like, I mean, it's
amnesia?
like, it's a revenge thing because the guy like killed his wife or something.
Right.
Yeah. But the whole principle, I mean, I really like, I mean, just in terms of like, I mean, in terms of hermetic, in terms of Hermes or hermetic shit, I really dig like Francis Yates stuff on Giordano Bruno and the art of memory, just that whole concept.
I have not checked that out. I mean,
Sort of.
I know of Giordano Bruno. I know he's a pretty dark occult guy.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
No?
Really. No, I mean, it's the story of him is dark because he did get burned at the stake for being like a heretic, but but he's not. No, he's not really a dark. No, he's not a black magic dude at all. He's like a nice magic guy.
Oh, he's nice. Okay.
No, I mean, this, like, I'm reading Giordano Bruno in the Hermetic tradition by Yates, and she talks about this idea of like the law of love in magic being basically the thing that divides good magic from bad. But yeah.
Is that Bruno's vibe? He's on like the love side of magic. Is that?
Oh yeah, no. Well, you know, he's complicated. Apparently, he was like weirdly anti-Semitic, even though he was really into Kabbalah. But he wasn't like a negative. His idea of magic wasn't really negative, I don't think.
Yeah, because someone was like, I don't know, someone was summing up, or like a part of his thing was like that the bonds, that all life is connected by bonds of dominance and submission.
I don't think that's really its
that...
thing. No, it's more about like symbolic connections or links or associations between stuff like sigils or like. But the idea of the art of memory specifically, yeah, has to do with like ordering and categorizing things according to symbols, basically. It's a symbolic system, obviously having mostly to do with the astrological decans and stuff. It's complicated. I mean, but the general idea I've always found really intriguing because it's so involved with images, you know. So as somebody who comes from kind of a visual arts background, I've been and has been really interested in media theory for a long time, like the idea of a kind of magic that, and the media theorist Willem Flusser was very influenced by Bruno.
What's his name?
Willem Flusser. He's a great guy in terms of thinking about images and photography and stuff. So
yeah, it's funny because I always think of you as a writer first and foremost. But yeah, visual art is totally part of your history. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel like I'm moving more and more into a space where I'm just thinking of myself mostly as an artist at this point. Although I guess I'm a writer too. I mean, I don't know. I want to move into like, in particular, theater and film. And I have this collective that I'm trying to start in Boston, or it's sort of already incubating, called Mirror Void Industries, which is sort of like a theater group, but also kind of like a lifestyle coaching firm. And
is that a type of thing, or is that?
Yeah. I mean, it's that idea, that part of it. It's not even ironic. We're literally like, my friend who I'm doing it with is like a total hippie, and she's like really into like Ayurvedic medicine and shit, and like, yeah, we're just talking about schemes for like how to make it into like a business and stuff, you know. But
theater is going to be a central thing of it.
Well, theater is how, I mean, is a big part of how I think about my own process more and more, I guess. So yeah, and performance. And I think, um, yeah, I think from the beginning with my right, flash fiction and stuff, it had kind of a theatrical, it had a performative. I don't know. I remember this dude, Elytron Frass. Have you heard of that guy?
I know we follow each other on Twitter,
Mhm.
but I think I think I haven't checked out his stuff, or like I did a little, but it's like yeah, wait, he's a visual artist, right? Or
No, he's a writer.
he's a
But
writer? Okay.
he did just do a book, Vitiators, which was a collab with like a comic book artist, I think.
Mm.
I haven't gotten it yet, but I want to get it. But I just remember him, me and him having this weird, like, kind of standoffish interaction on Twitter, like early on. I respect the guy, and he's always liked my work, I think. But it was a funny, just kind of like slightly standoffish thing where he said something like your work is very theatrical, and I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I'm interested in theater, like, of course it's theatrical, like I think he meant it sort of as a diss, but I was like, but that's my thing,
I know it's funny. It's like theatrical when you're not talking about theater. Often that word is a gently critical, or
Yeah, I mean, I feel
usually.
like his stuff, he's kind of a hardcore. His approach to like writing is very like sort of occult oriented, I think.
Yeah.
So he sees it, I think, his work as being very like authentic in that sense because he's committed to a certain belief system, I think. And I think my work is more about destabilizing belief systems. But
That I can see. Yeah. That, like, well, though, to keep filling people in on your stuff, though, like what other stuff? I mean, you don't have to go down like the whole list exactly, but I mean, as far as your writing, I mean, have you written plays? Because I haven't read any drama that you've
well,
written.
no. I mean, it's just I have a script that I'm working on, basically, and this connects to what we were talking about yesterday. This idea that of base that I sort of like because this connects also to Hitman, and I guess to the I don't know if it relates to the future of the God hallucination, the Void Front Press book, but Hitman obviously is about gender, and I've been thinking about I've been incubating projects that have to do with gender, like performativity and like sort of developing like a drag persona, which is something that I've been working on for a while through using female pseudonyms and characters and trans characters and stuff. And at this point, I have a script written that's about a character who is either female or trans, or like it was a drag character that I was thinking I was going to play. And at this point, I'm starting to think about with questioning my gender, I guess, through, but it's like kind of through my art that I've gotten to that point, is like wondering if I might be trans, I guess. And that was something I wanted to like at least bring up here and discuss, because I feel like it's a if I can if my confusion helps other people that are you know
Yeah,
feeling,
yeah, yeah.
because it's an alienating thing to process, I guess, so like but so I'm reading a lot of like trans theory and queer theory and stuff. It could be it could be one of these things, kind of like a method actor's dilemma, where you get like so far into like a character and you're not, but it's like, I don't know, at some level there's no difference, like you become like that, become the character. Yeah, I don't know. So I am wondering if I'm trans, I guess, which I think casts the book Hitman in a different light.
Well, yeah, definitely, man. I mean, that never would have occurred to me just reading the book,
Mhm.
or just knowing you, which is like, I mean, so that's one of those things. I don't know if that's I mean, I don't know if that feels, I don't know, unsupportive or invalidating. But when you told me
No,
that
no, no.
about your, like, yeah, I mean, gender thing, I think I'm trans. I have to admit, I was just like, what? Like, I mean, just as far as like, just like knowing you, yeah, just, I don't know, we've just never talked about gender, and like, you just always seemed so, I don't know, like, just sort of not really moving in any direction with that, or just kind of male, like, I don't know, we just never really talked about, you know what I mean? We talked about all this
Yeah.
other stuff. So it's like kind of fascinating to me, you know, to but then you telling me that and then rereading it or reskimming it, I'm like, oh yeah, I mean, it like begins with the definition of male, and then at the very end,
Right.
you know, well, no, but you know what it is though. But okay, so here's what makes it interesting to me that you're actually being like, yo, like I think I might be trans. Is that there seemed like this kind of playful, like messing with the ideas or something.
Yeah.
You know, with the language, or like at the very end.
Right. With the stuff about like, are you even LGBTQ? Like that
Yeah,
stuff.
like the final line, or like, and just the stuff where you're like, we should actually have you maybe read like little passages from
Yeah,
it
I can
if
actually read from that section if you want.
if you're not, because a lot of the stuff in there is, well, actually, first before you read, like tell people, like, let's just, it's about a hitman, right? I mean, this is like, is there more just on a fundamental level to fill people in? It's a short
Yeah,
book,
I
you know?
mean, it's obviously it is satire in whatever that word even means, but yeah, it's kind of a joke, but kind of a joke in a very serious way. The way that like the surrealists thought about, like Breton published an anthology of black humor where he had like L'Autrement and shit in there. That's dark shit, you know. And
Yeah.
it's like the idea of black humor for me is very, I take it very serious. I think of like Beckett and that you can push humor in a way where it's like a joke, but it's also, I don't know, it's a joke, but it's not a joke. You know, it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's like funny in a sick way that life at its worst is, and is if you can laugh at it, you know. And that's what I think literature can allow you to do sometimes if it's in that kind, because I think it's a dark book.
Oh
But
yeah, definitely.
but like it's like, you know, hitman, yeah, he's a hitman, but it's also like, I, you know, play with the idea that he's just crazy, or, you know, it's just technically or something,
Right.
you know.
Because there's this way, like the stuff in there, there's so much super interneted out language, like, you know,
Yeah,
like of the moment, like internet subculture stuff, which I love, and just crazy stuff about drugs that are both real and not real.
I want to say some of that shit, like especially at the end where it has a kind of cut up of like, you know, like goofy vlogger speak, like girl vlogger speak or whatever, was kind of inspired by this book, Diana Havas's book, Actual Person, which I think is really brilliant, and I think is probably slept on because she got so canceled.
Oh yeah, Diana Havas. Is it
But I just
Havas
want
or
to say, I
Havas?
just want to kind of give a shout out to her because you know, I think she's brilliant, and it's not really fair, I think, what happened to her. Although she was kind of obnoxious, but I don't know. I don't know. It's a complicated thing, but
No, yeah, I remember hearing about her. I don't know. Yeah, she was like canceled queen or canceled.
yeah, she was like canceled as fuck. I don't.
Canceled Bay. Like, I don't know, but yeah, I don't know her at all. But what did she get in? Or maybe we don't need to talk about other people's.
We don't need to talk about her
cancellations and shit.
Well, people can look at the interview with Justin Murphy, I guess, for that. But because yeah, I just used to be friends with her, and we had a falling out, but I still really respect her, and yeah, she had an influence on the way I think about art. You know, I think she's really smart and brilliant as an artist.
and that that has to do with how you kind of you use elements and language and images from internet subcultures, and very like of the minute kind of internet. So yeah, because so much of that was like so fun and playful, and like that a lot of the gender stuff in there seemed like, without having heard you say that you're actually considering that you might be trans or whatever, like before hearing that, a lot of it came off as, again, not that it came off as like making fun of trans people at all, but it had this vibe of like having fun with like all the pronoun stuff and gender shit in there. It had more of that like cyberpunk Nick Land, like early Nick Land meltdown vibe of just like everything's getting liquidated, our bodies are opening up to technology, you know, that kind of like cyberpunk
Yeah.
melting down vibe where gender is just one of a million codes that are being swept away, you know. So it had that vibe of like having fun with it. So it's like, that's why it's interesting where you're like, yeah, it's playful, but actually you're like, no, actually this is kind of part of where you're really at,
Right.
specifically with this trans thing, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like yeah, I don't know, I feel sort of I guess, yeah, vulnerable about that in a way that I didn't anticipate. Like, when I wrote it, I was sort of riffing on macho posturing, I guess, but like, and I think I did see myself as either genderqueer or just like not having any identity. But like this whole the pretension of like I don't have an identity, whatever. It's all fuck it, you know. It's all, you know, like it's all just bullshit or something, you know, because one can sort of look at it that way, but then at a certain point, you know, it's like there's almost like an ethical question, or like in a sort of like Levinas, Judith Butler sense of solidarity with other bodies, and of also the idea of like body, you know, bodies that matter, like the body, it's not just language, you know, like your body is part of that too. And you know, I feel like it's like Hitman is sort of like my version of, if that's my version of gender trouble, I need to write like a Bodies That Matter, because Bodies That Matter was a way to sort of like, I have it right here. I'm reading this, like right now I'm reading this, and I'm reading
Bodies That Matter. Okay,
yeah.
Judith Butler.
Gaga
and...
Feminism by Sex, Gender, and the End of Normal by Jack Halberstam, a really great trans theorist.
Jack Halberstam. Yeah, because I mean, I haven't read any of this stuff, and dude, I'm gonna be totally honest, and this is what I want you to like hit me to stuff and like steer me in directions. Like when I hear bodies, I'm like, this is cringe. I'm not gonna lie. When I hear the bodies thing, well, I just because I'm only really familiar with the whole like bodies in spaces, like that kind of vibe. I mean, I'm mostly only familiar with that from like the most, you know, just Twittered out, fucking Tumblred out.
You mean like libtards? Like
yes, libtard. Yes, that's what I'm familiar with. So I just you know, like so that's so I haven't really read the OG people who like have spearheaded that kind of philosophy where you talk about bodies that way. Foucault I have read, I mean, where he's talking about like biopolitics and stuff, but that's well, and Deleuze, I guess, but
yeah,
but anyway, yeah, okay, so interesting. All right, so yeah, I want you to hip us to some Judith Butler, but should we do you want to read a passage though, because I think you were about to, yeah,
sure. Yeah, I guess I could read like from the end, like the meltdown part at the end, because that's what we're talking about, kind of, I guess.
It gets more and more melty, right? I mean, sort of.
Yeah, like, it melts. It just melts at the end.
It gets very manic. There's this. It's like it's like pronoun acceleration, like at the end or something, right?
Yeah, there's the thing about pronoun. Like, oh shit, oh wait, hang on a second. I've like marked up my own copies of it. So I'm just trying to think about it. But okay, yeah, I'll start with like section 8. Maybe I'll read like section 8. Maybe I'll just read section 8, because that's not, section 9 is the last section. I mean, I could read 8, 9. It's not very long. 8, 9, and right.
Yeah, whatever you think. Whatever you think's the richest.
I'll just read through the end from 8.
Nice.
By the way, how much time do we have? Like,
I mean, these go. I like to put the cap on at 3 hours now.
Really?
But
are you joking?
Well,
that's long. That's really
no. My thing is like minimum 1 hour, maximum 3.
That's like a seminar. That's like a
no, I know. Well,
like
this is
seminar length.
No, 3 is, well, I mean, you know Xylon, Genesis Autoburn?
I don't know that guy. He has a cool name.
Oh, you would love each other. Oh man, you guys gotta hang Xylon. Yeah.
What's the deal? What's
They're just
I'll look. I'll
they're just a theory nut, like galaxy brain noise artist person.
cool.
Yeah. Very like in any case, very based type person, but also they them, like, best of both worlds. But
Yeah.
whatever. Xylon went for 3 hours both times I had them on. So, and anyway, if you have to break after an hour, that's cool.
I mean, whatever.
But
I'm,
we'll just go till there's a natural cadence. Anyway, but so yeah. Let's hear some of Hitman, dude. Let's hear some Hitman.
All right. I could maybe read this, and then if we're treating it like a seminar, I can go back to the beginning at some point, maybe read some of the more gritty, like sort of like detective novel, macho like style stuff that starts it out.
Hard boiled. It's very hard boiled.
It's like what's the name of that? Like a Dashiell Hammett kind of a vibe or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyways, okay. So section 8, E, non-binary brackets non-binary pronoun, was in a state of vague boredom that was turning hellish, even as E felt the YouTube algorithm honing in on object form of E, trying to convert to a lifestyle vibe E wasn't really into. Zero in and move, polarizing. Yes, this was the most boring boredom ever. It could be dangerous even. Last night's bout of smoking weed left feeling somewhat inspired, but had the inspiration worn off yet? True, E had new goals for possessive form of E work, but E was slammed with inertia, thrown back against the wall by entropy. E stared at the iridescent reflective material of flip-flops. E leaned his head against the desk, bracing it with hands the way E used to do in elementary school when E was bored, and the teachers figured it was fine. E was just a gifted child. It was okay for E to zone out sometimes. E flexed muscles, replaying the hit E had done on Jessica Mimnome the previous day, effortlessly snapping her neck, deft with purpose. Hide the body in a dumpster, no problem. Jessica was just a whore. Nobody cared about her. 838,000 subscribers, 1 million views 2 years ago. Stop trying to distract them. Yes, the old thinking is bad. The Bible is the right thing. I get comments all the time. It resonates with a lot of people. Catholic school was uniquely terrible. Growing up being gay, or just in general growing up, 3.3 thousand comments, only 126 thumbs down, 33,000 thumbs up. Ooh boy, this is interesting because now I'm wondering, we weren't in our uniforms that day. I was wearing a tank top. Mind you, I'm like a 12-year-old kid. Honestly, it didn't dawn on that I was a child. I was mortified. Religious people and the indecency of bra straps is very much a thing. You know what I'm saying? Hello, friends. I'm looking extra goth mom today. I live in a high-rise, but neighbors, I'm definitely past baby gay phase. But I think I still have that little baby gay self in the back of brains. I'm very privileged to live in Toronto. I'm just bombarded with so much homosexuality. The dumbest discourse I've seen in a while. You could see the cracks in her gestures and those wild looks to ask why you were staring at her, even though it was obviously performing. Maybe he had ADHD. I don't even know if you were actually LGBTQ. Section 9. Straight is neutral. You're left out of pride. It's for LGBTQ. Look, my guy, it ain't that deep. This is garbage discourse. Tumblr. There are really straight people out there. My guy, do you have any respect for LGBTQ history at all? It can seem like it's all just flamboyant fun, but there are places in the world where horrible things happen to people just because they're gay. E don't need straight pride because it's always been okay for E to be straight. Jesus Christ, you were such a good ally until you decided that a straight person was the most important component of the gay community. Fuck that heterosexual pride day nonsense. Her curation of posts is good. I like it. I've gone from goth mom to just absolute gay trash kid. This trend made a heterophobe. Sadistic Barbie. This is the bratty bottom anthem. Changed my mind. Femdoms rise for our national anthem. Gratitude is so powerful. It is the most wonderful feeling within. When you experience it, listen to this every day for 21 days. Remember to feel gratitude for all that you already have and all that you're in the process of manifesting. I had some dental surgery I needed to get done. So for today's video, Miley Cyrus dropped a new album. I have not listened to it at all. So I figured I would do another album review. I love doing these. I think you guys love when I do them. Please make sure you subscribe, you hit that like button. This album I was actually really excited for. I think what he's doing right now is so dope. It definitely fits with the stuff I like. That's something I want to talk about, weaponizing one's YouTube audience. Blam, you died. Game over.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Hearing you read it it's extra. I mean, yeah, definitely. I'm actually not sure what to comment on first, because I mean, this is not a narrative part of it. I mean, this is a free associate, right? I mean, like,
it's like a cut up.
Yeah. This is very much a cut up thing. Yeah, very Burroughs out, I guess.
I mean, it's literally a cut up, because I was just watching these different like vlogs and shit, and just taking shit. I was just like, wow, that's an amazing line. I'm gonna take that, you know.
Oh, it wasn't like you wrote text and then cut.
It was like literally, I just like ripped it off. I mean, no, yes, it's a cut up. I mean,
yeah, you took phrases, but yeah, phrases directly from I see. Yeah.
Like, I'd never be able to trace it back and figure out what it's from, but
yeah, you're just on a YouTube rabbit hole.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, just the thing with the I and the E, like, yeah, it just makes it. I get there's like different ways that it's like everyone's talking about gender stuff, but I feel like there's just way different ways that people talk about this. Not different ways as in someone's trans and someone's not. I mean, like, there's people who are more like, look, what's there to talk about? Like, you know, I'm a woman. These are my pronouns. Like, we've always been here. Trans always been here. And then there's people who are more like, yes, this is very complicated. Yes, we're in the future. Yes, this is cyberpunk. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, not that can seem a little dismissive for a trans person to be like, yo, you're a cyberpunk robot. I mean, that's like not in a cartoonish way, but like, you know, but this sort of, your thing seems to be coming from this thing of being like, yes, this is difficult. This is an overload this is a deluge of stuff to think about, you know? Like, you're using these made-up pronouns that are like, it's disruptive, you know? To try to read that is like difficult, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that I sort of got the idea for that from Charlie Kaufman's book Antkind, which I think is massively like slept on, where the main character, he's basically just like making fun of libtards in a sense in that book, where like the main character is like super obsessed with being PC to the point that he's like, oh yeah, like, I'm genderqueer, like, please refer to me only using like the pronoun thon, which is like a made up, just like
right
made up that like like random ass like, and I just thought that was so like such a good idea. Like, it was so clever. I think in the case of that book, I think it's not obviously Charlie Kaufman isn't queer, but like but yeah, no, I think it's in a similar kind of vein of like, you know, yeah, like, what does this really mean, you know, to deconstruct grammar in that way, or like pronouns, or, you know, like, to, it's just funny to me, I guess, the way that different people, like different queer people, talk about it. Like some people are like these are my pronouns, like, use these pronouns only, and then you know, some people just be like, whatever, pronouns are fine, you know, I don't care, you know, and it's like this weird sort of ambiguity, like, in language. And I guess, yeah, as a writer, like, it just interests me that there would be that kind of these different levels of carefulness about it, and different levels of taking it seriously. And in a sense, I think there's a temptation maybe to almost dismiss how serious it is to like intervene in like the way language works, like that. It really has like huge kind of ramifications to sort of like if you're like if you want to be called they them instead of whatever, you know, it really sort of changes. At least as a writer, that's you know, it's just interesting, you know, and
Yeah, it's like super super complicated, you know. But I think maybe when people are like, when you've got some people who are really like anti you or anti-trans or anti-queer or you know whatever, people who are just like that's degenerate, stop being that, stop doing that. I mean, it puts
well, I've
people.
known I was degenerate for years. I mean, like,
No, but you know what I mean. I mean, people who are like really like anti, you know, transphobic or whatever. Like people, it seems like that probably puts people in a defensive position where they don't have as much freedom to be like, to openly be talking about questions and complexities. You know what I mean? Because it's like people are just not letting them. You know what I mean? People are coming in with these like bad faith questions about language. You know what I mean?
wait, you mean the xenophobic people?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I just mean someone. I mean someone being like when you completely change what these words mean. I mean, it's huge. Like it's huge for everyone. You know what I mean? But it's like, you know, a lot of the time the only people saying that are people who are trying to like shut down the conversation or shut down the people who are trans or shut down. You know what I mean? It's like
You mean like that the sort of bigoted people are like really loud, like have are very
well, they're asking all the questions about like, you know, what does it mean to just decouple a pronoun from biology, et cetera, et
like
cetera. You know,
that outrage, like how can you do that?
right. It's like the sort of like the moral outrage or the sort of like the disgust or the bigotry or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it ends up it ends up preventing people from asking questions because the only people that are asking questions are people who are asking it in bad faith. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Well,
I guess yeah.
I mean, well, I feel like you're tuned into that like neo-reactionary stuff in a weird, perverse way that is interesting to me. Like you're interested in that stuff. Interests me. I was just scanning like Moldbug's Substack like last night, and I was like, okay, let's just look at what this is, you know, because like the description of what he is, just if you Google him, is like it makes it sound so bad that I'm just like,
I know.
why even bother? But I was just all right, fuck it, you know. And I look on his Substack and I'm like scanning it, and then there's like a post about how we need to be like Tolkien pilled, and it's elves versus hobbits, and you know, and then there's like a post that's like so-called racism, you know, like
Well, yeah. I mean,
like, oh, okay, whatever, man. I mean, I'm into being Tolkien pilled, I guess. You know?
I don't know. I don't know about
elf core.
I don't know how any kind of gender stuff fits into his. Actually, like he doesn't really talk about anything.
But I mean, when
along those lines, but like, I mean, I'm talking about, you know, like a question that is kind of a reactionary question, but doesn't have to be, is just like, you know, what even is identity? Like, what are we even talking about when we talk about identity? You know what I mean? It's like that. It's just like, what does that even? People like respect my identity. It's like, what does that even mean to validate?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, other than just to kind of be polite or be nice to someone or show them love, you know, just show love or compassion or whatever, you know. But as far as just being like, I am a thing, it's like, that's not like a stable fact. I mean, that's, you know, but it's necessary to think that way.
Right.
It's more or less necessary to think that way depending on who you are and the context and the situation, you know?
Right. I mean, I would bring up, I guess, like Judith Butler's idea of like precarious existence. And because I think of all the queer theorists, she's the most ethically responsible and serious. And it's like this idea that, yes, of course, you can just be like, you don't exist. I don't care about your life, you know, like, and that idea, I think the book where she explores that the most, although I haven't really gotten into it that deeply yet, but it is Frames of War. When is life grievable? And it's like
frames of war.
Frames of War. When is life grievable? ? So it's just this very fundamental sort of Levinasian question of, like I was watching a lecture of hers called "Why Preserve the Life of the Other," and she also had a book called "The Force of Nonviolence." So it's just this very basic idea of like, these people aren't hurting anybody, you know. Why, you know? I mean, it upsets me. I mean, it's like the hatred and stuff, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like maybe I have kind of a militant, or I don't know, militant. I mean, I think I have the ability, maybe because of my education or something, to sort of step back and think about this in a very like strategic way, and as an artist and stuff. And I think that it puts me in a privileged position as somebody, as a queer person who has a voice and stuff, you know, and like, but like not all queer people have that kind of privilege or voice, or like Butler talks about the idea that like gender non-conforming people are like living in the shadows because they're not fully recognized, and they can't sort of come into the light fully. I wrote a blog post about this on my blog Vampirology, but yeah, it's like this idea that, but I mean, as for me personally, like as an artist, I obviously can be like in the spotlight, and anyone who can be like in the spotlight and can say, you know, makes you responsible, I think. And so I guess, but yeah, this another metaphor that she used in that same lecture. That lecture was called I've just been watching all these like lectures of hers. Why do bodies matter, or something like that. And it's like, you know, the alienation is such that, and the lack of recognition is that it's like hard to breathe. Like you don't even have space to breathe.
Okay.
So like that, and I think those are great metaphors that are coming out of like a sort of Levinasian, Blanchottian, like kind of quasi-mystical, like ethical phenomenology, you know, like very much informed by a kind of Jewish ethical post-Heidegger type of thinking.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, because I have not read Blanchot or Levinas. I know both are really important to you. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Let's see where to go with this. As far as what well, you also just brought up Jewish ethics or something.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Is that a part of what you're doing? Or
I mean, I don't really know how being it's hard for me to say how being Jewish affects me.
but what did you mean though when you said like that?
Well, I just meant Levinas especially, and Blanchot was very close friends with Levinas, so I think he became. It's interesting because at the beginning, Blanchot was like this right-wing, almost like nationalist, like Catholic guy, and then he gradually became more left-wing, especially after becoming friends with George Bataille, and Levinas, and more kind of Jewish, like more into like Jewish mysticism and shit. So yeah, that influenced Blanchot, and also in a sense, you could argue that from the beginning, it kind of had that vibe of sort of Abrahamic anxiety or something, and that Levinas, and Levinas is I don't know. Levinas is weird because it's like, as an ethical thinker, he's so intense and it's so sort of theological that it can be sort of annoying. I mean, like you can almost be like I think Zizek hates Levinas, and he made some joke about how, like, you know, in his gulag, you're going to have to write essays on like how you were seduced by Levinas's thinking. And but I get the point, because Levinas you could argue that he's a very sentimental kind of thinker, because it's like this idea of just being like infinitely responsible to the other. And I think that comes up in Blanchot in the way that he talks about space and like me and you, like, and then the weird ways that can be almost psychedelically warped in a sense of almost like, it's interesting because with Blanchot, there's this sense of loss of boundaries, where it's sort of fascinating to me the way you talk about boundaries in your work, in your music, and which obviously sort of comes from Blanchot originally, because the idea of the outside is it's really from Foucault's essay on Blanchot, The Thought from the Outside. And then I guess Nick Land uses the idea. I'm not really familiar. I never really took Land seriously, so I don't really know how.
I doubt he's coming out of that. I'm not sure. I think for him it's Kant. I think it's something with.
Well, he's getting it maybe from Deleuze, who got it from Foucault, who got it from Blanchot, and it's like I don't know if I could even explain like what that means, because it's very abstract.
The thought from the outside.
The idea of the outside, it's a very abstract concept. I mean, it's not as I think the way you're using it is actually fairly concrete. It's almost like you're talking about ego boundaries or something like that, or like the limits of the self, or sort of, or something.
Yeah, I mean, let's not go off into into my stuff with because it's I want to kind of steer it to back to what you're dealing with in Hitman. Although I appreciate you want to talk about my shit as well.
Well, I mean, we could. I mean,
it's just a little bit tangential. We could talk about my stuff for sure if you want, but just as far as what we're talking about, it's a little tangential. The stuff with the outside. Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back to Judith Butler, gender, and your book, because I don't even know. Maybe you can fill in people watching or listening, like. Yeah, what is her vibe? What vibes regarding gender are you taking from her, like in this book?
Well, I don't know if the book was specifically influenced by Butler. I'm just saying that the way I'm thinking about it now, and those ideas, and moving forward in my life and my work, I'm definitely feeling like I need to read or get back into reading Butler. I mean, I read Gender Trouble like a few years ago. And or like I was exposed to I took like a queer theory class in college like years and years ago, and at that time I wasn't even really like identifying as queer, or I was not. It was ambiguous for me. I think over the years, the sense of needing to really be out and just like be open about that relates a lot to a feeling of responsibility, and like one thing Butler says is like you to really do justice to like this question of like queer lives mattering. It's not about heroic individuals, it's about solidarity. And I think there's a problem with that in the sense that the intellectual, even like Butler is a heroic individual, you know. But it's also, but still, you know, that's true. I mean, it's like I if I were just gonna like be completely weird and just refuse to be any identity, it would just be, well, for one thing, it would just suck. You know, it would just be like because I do have specific tendencies and specific aesthetics and, you know, desires. So, but it's also like I just personally. No, I guess it is that I am like maybe a more specific now than when I was younger, and but anyways, in terms of Butler, yeah, it's like she's just the most intense, philosophically intense, kind of like the smart. Well, I wouldn't say the smartest, but she's she's really smart, and she's really like philosophically thorough, just the way that she writes about gender, and it doesn't it's just her thinking is so complex, and it's a relief. It almost feels like you could almost say, I mean, not you know, not to be too much of a libtard, but it does feel like kind of a safe space to think about these things, like just her books, you know, just to read, and or watch a lecture or whatever. It's like also funny story. I tweeted about this recently. When I was at Princeton, I went to a lecture by her. She was not at Princeton; she was a guest. Like she was just doing a guest lecture. But I was like on acid, and I was like peaking, and when I got there, and it's like everything is like sort of flashing, and like, and she's talking about Kafka, and I'm just like sitting in the back, like fuck, like this is crazy, you know.
Yeah.
And, I think that was a formative experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you said you're saying that for her, identity has something to do with ethics of solidarity.
Yeah, I
Is
mean,
that
because you're not. It's like you're part of society. Nobody is. No, you know, no one is an island. You know, you like you don't exist. Like you can't be a unique individual without individuating within that context of other people and other bodies and stuff. That's pretty basic. But yeah, it's just basic. I mean, it's just the basic fact that you're not that life is relational and that you're. I mean, that's something she emphasizes, is this idea of a kind of porosity where you're really not. And I think there's a side to me where like I get into this sort of almost individualistic like wanting to be a heroic individual and you know and like I love Nietzsche and I feel like Max Stirner is underrated and but it's just like but like ultimately it's like I don't know. Here's the one of the things is like what's the difference between just being sentimental and sappy about identity politics, right? And really taking it seriously and thinking about it, not in other words, it's like you could be like you can bemoan like the alienated like situation that you're in or whatever. I could um and I do. I mean, it's but it's like but then it's like you have to I don't know, fortunately there are communities and there are people that care and like I mean, clearly you're like an ally or whatever, and that's cool, that you would.
Yeah, but see, even that, like,
You reject that.
well, because you just said ally, you are an ally.
Oh well,
You see, but you see what I'm talking about. This is like identity. That would be me being like, I am a thing. It's like, no,
you don't want to be anything. Like you want to
it's like, no, but this is what I'm saying. It's like being like, you are an ally. It's like, no, I have a bunch of trans friends and I listen to what they have to say open-mindedly, and I have the humility to not think that I know everything about stuff that other people are going through, and I come at people with love, etc. But that's behavior and attitudes. You know what I'm saying? Once you say, you're an ally. You understand what I'm saying?
Right, but so do you want to sort of get into a conversation like what is identity like in general or something like that?
Well, I'm just hyper suspicious of just how obsessed everyone is with identity now. You know what I'm saying? Like I mean, it just, and so much of what I see online, it's like it ends up seeming like very alienated, the way people like talk about this kind of thing. I mean, it's like, I mean, community is sort of community is more easy to define, It's like people coming together and kind of like having each other's backs in a certain way. Whereas like identity, like I've said this before, like let's say that more and more people who are born with male genitalia, let's say more and more people start identifying as a woman or trans or they them, and more and more, and then the only people left,
like a virus, like a
well, it wouldn't be a bad vibe. Hey, it's cool, but I'm saying,
well, I mean, but come on, that's so hyperbolic to.
No, but I'm saying
like
but this is
like a shockwave, like a
yeah, but this is an important thing that I'm gonna say is like, and I've said this before, if the only people left who are using he him pronouns if the only people left doing that
Yeah.
are like MMA fighters and like Russian like human trafficking mobsters and shit. Like I'm actually seriously not kidding about this. If the only people left using who are like I am a man, I use he him, at that point
Like
I would
gangster,
then
gangster rappers and
well if those are the only people using he him at that point I would then be like, well, okay, I guess I'm non-binary. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I
Like
mean,
just
well,
because the word as it stands now, I'm
well,
just like, yeah, I'm a man because I just am and it's cool.
that's
But
fine. I mean, that's
no, but you get what I'm saying? Like if man stopped meaning, if the word, if the only, what I'm saying on the level of solidarity, I guess you could say maybe is the word, or community, or like identity. It's like, yeah, if everyone, if the only people left saying I'm a man are MMA fighters, then I would have to be like, I'm not a man. But that wouldn't be like, oh, I realized that I'm not a man. It would be like, oh, that word now means something else, so now I'm gonna use a different word because it no longer applies to me. You know what I'm saying?
well. I just don't think that's that kind of like apocalyptic scenario is very likely to like
Well, it wouldn't be an apocalypse. It wouldn't even be
actually.
that. It's just kind of just things changing, though. You know what I mean? Like,
But I don't really, no, I don't really know what you mean because like you're describing a like a very hyperbolic, sort of fictional like scenario
okay,
where like
less. Okay, no fiction, no hyperbole. When I talk to actual observant Jews, I'm not Jewish. You know, when I talk to people who are not Jewish at all, then I'm Jewish. You know what I mean? It's like that identity is.
it's a interpolation.
I mean, it's case dependent. You know, whether I would even say they or we. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, so this is why I'm just saying this stuff's not stable. That's all. You know, it's like it's like I really object to the sort of essentialist thing about like identity, where it's just like I am this thing, you can't question that. Like if I
Well,
say I am Jewish and then an observant Jew is like, no, you aren't actually to me, I would have to be like, yo, I respect that to you, I'm not. You know?
right. I just feel like I mean somebody could like question my identity or insult me or or whatever, but I feel like I would like punch back. Like I don't. I mean, like I would. Yeah, that is okay. Honestly, this is funny because what you're saying to me brings up a lot of abstract philosophy. If that's okay, like,
Yeah,
and
no,
this goes
please,
back to
please.
this guy's back to like the straight white dudes, like from the like Bataille and Kojev, like Bataille talks about sovereignty, right? And this idea like at any moment somebody can like kick sand in your face and like even if it seems like it's like people fuck with you all the time and your sovereignty or your power or your individuality is I guess the point is just that it unfolds over time. So it's like, yeah, moment to moment your identity can change.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly right now I'm presenting in a very male way, and I'm talking about that transitioning as like I'm not really sure about it,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about it. So if I did, I guess I would change my name. I would use she her pronouns, surgery, whatever, but
Okay.
that's all. Pulling the trigger on that would have to really really think about it hard first, because it's like
Sure.
this is like I'm really not sure. I'm just thinking about it. And I just feel like to be open and honest about that is like a nice positive thing if anybody else is feeling a similar kind of confusion
Oh
and
yeah.
because yeah.
Yeah, so you're kind of feeling like it would be, but you would like make physical stuff aside, like just as far as identity, like you would end up drawing probably like a strict line of, like when you say you're thinking about it, you're like you would actually kind of like pull the trigger on like she
Un-
or not, like it wouldn't be like you wouldn't get into like a whatever zone kind of, or
Well, it's the question. Yeah, no, because it's like the question. Yeah, I think so. Because no, this is exact. No, what I'm thinking isn't like, am I gender queer or something? Because I definitely am, and I agree with you that non-binary or gender queer is a very ambiguous type of identity. But like I'm thinking more like literally trans male to female. Like I might be, literally like male to
Wow.
female
Okay.
trans.
Yeah.
So like that is yeah, it's complicated, but I mean it's like but yeah, it would be like there would be the question of like changing your name. All that stuff is so complicated, and ultimately with transitioning expensive, so it's such a long term
Yeah. No doubt.
thing. It's not like anytime gonna happen anytime really soon. I'm just thinking about it. So I just wanted to be open about that.
Yeah. No, it's like the you said that actually you started to have these questions from your writing. I mean, that's interesting to me.
Well, from my art, I mean, I think it was mostly actually through this script I was writing, and through the idea that I felt like some of my writing, when you said you were surprised, when I figured maybe you hadn't read some of my early, some of my writing where I use like a female pseudonym.
I had not.
Yeah. Because that was like the first stuff that I, on Surfaces, I did the first two flash fiction pieces I published were both under the pseudonym Candy Rhizomatic. And they were these very kind of sarcastic, like caustic metafiction things about like being trans or being genderqueer. And at that time, I was like, I'm just playing with this. I definitely wasn't denying being genderqueer. Like I was thinking of myself as genderqueer, but that again, it's an ambiguous identity. But like now I'm like, wait a minute, but yeah, it's like, is it, maybe it's more than that, but I think it's more through like this project of wanting to do like a kind of Cindy Sherman-esque, maybe like book of photographs or something of me in drag, which I've been thinking about for like months, and like trying to like mood board that and shit,
Okay.
I love, for example, like there's a cool book, speaking of being Tolkien pilled or elf core or what, fairy core. There's this great book, Fairy Tales, by the photographer Petra Collins, that I guess I want to give a shout out to, because it's got Alexa Demie from the show Euphoria in all these different like in these it's very sexy, and she's like tied up and stuff, but she's like an elf, or she's like a fairy, or she's a witch, or it's really cool.
Yeah.
But I was thinking of doing something like that, and then as I developed that idea further, it was like, wait a minute, maybe it's more than just a drag thing, because doing drag and being trans are obviously not
right. Yeah. Drag is like it's a thing you do, not a thing that you are, right?
Well, it's like a mask, or it's like a costume that you put on,
right
when you're performing it. And then most drag queens are like gay dudes, like most of the time.
Right. I mean, yeah, totally. Well, like, what is, I mean, is the character in Hitman questioning, like, or is like how much?
I think he's just crazy. He's just crazy.
Yeah,
he just loses it. He loses it. He's not thinking about it clearly at all.
Right. It's really fucking funny, man. There are some really, really funny lines in that. There's something about like eyes. Someone's eyes are swastika canceled or something, or like.
Right. Do you want me to read another?
Yeah. Read another passage. Let's. Maybe
right.
From like a different part of the book. Oh, I don't have my notes up here, but I think I'm doing fine without the notes. Yeah, maybe something earlier.
I'll read the beginning. Okay.
That's good. Yeah.
So Hitman Récit, which is a show thing, but I can explain that later. It's dedicated to Edward Gorey. And then it starts with the definition of male from the Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary. Male, adjective, 1, of relating to or being a sex that typically has the capacity to produce relatively small, usually motile gametes which fertilize the eggs of a female. 2, having or producing only stamens or staminate flowers, a male holly. B, having a gender identity that is the opposite of female. C, I love that, the opposite of, I don't know, it's funny.
Yeah, no, I mean, right,
made up of usually adult members of the male sex, consisting of males, a male choir. D, characteristic of boys, men of the male sex, exhibiting maleness, a deep male voice. E, designed for or typically used by boys or men, a male cologne, male contraceptives. F, engaged in or exercised by boys or men, a social code that taught women deference to male power in return for protection was upended, from Jane E. Schultz. G, having a quality such as, this is the most fucked up part about the way people think about gender, in my opinion. Having a quality such as vigor or boldness, sometimes associated with the male sex. Anyways. 2, masculine, sense 3A, a male rhyme. 3, designed with a projecting part. Actually, this is the funniest one. Designed with a projecting part for fitting into a corresponding female part, a male hose coupling.
Well, that's the only one that makes sense.
That's the most concrete way.
Yeah, that's the only one that like is actually like, okay, yes, that's a fact, you know. The first one and that one, yeah.
But well, I'll just read like the first section, or maybe the first few pages. That's that's the opening epigraph. I hate it when stuff annoys me, said an austere cyber-gothic dyke in a gratingly nasal valley girl flourish of phlegm bitters. I'm going to write a manifesto, and I'll call it Against Annoyance. That'll show him, chimed her subby gay best friend, hands in corduroys smarmy. The goth chick said nothing and scowled. Darby frowned as he strolled past them, swam in and out of identifying with this stoned e-girl's mush-mouth ramblings and his own inner monologue. The labyrinth that was his life was crystallizing into something that might be manageable, navigable, albeit transitory and sinister, puzzling. The map was in hand and the end was in sight. This was the life of a grizzled hitman. Take no prisoner's attitude. Simulation or no simulation. The trail of schizophrenic scribblings that constituted Darby's oeuvre up to this point were finally leading somewhere. Somewhere coherent, somewhere into something like a narrative, like a biography. At least loosely speaking, he envisioned a sort of metafiction framework to contain the performances that added up to a life that belonged to him, basically. But all abstract frippery aside, his main job, killing people for money, kept him supplied with the fundamental trappings of a financially stable and independent lifestyle. It also gave him a hardcore edge that scared people who saw him walking down the street, hands balled up into fists. They were relaxed fists, which was what made him seem even more threatening, like a poised martial artist. When he let his hands relax, fingers pointing down, opposite hand moving with opposite leg, in the coordinated shuffling gait, a physiognomy that had the hollowness and austerity of a Chinese scholar's rock, he looked even more frightening because nothing was hidden. Leather jacket encasing him in sleek animality, fashion passion. An increasingly coherent path was forming in his mind like a crawler algorithm scripted from termite data, carnivorously inevitable, the coagulation of his destiny, an oracle for his existence, if you will. As he disposed of corpses, he felt things crystallizing.
So yeah, there's a lot in there about focus. You keep talking about gotta focus. That seems to be a big,
right,
like obsessive. I mean, he's grasping, right? He's having trouble focusing, right? I mean, this is sort of right. Like, that's,
yeah. No, it's funny because I have been reading like a lot of like phenomenology like type stuff, or I mean, at this point, I kind of organize my research that feels more kind of academic-esque into like just coming up with like bibliographies. Like I have the books that I'm actually reading, and then I've like got like a list of like books I want to get, and I have this long list of like books that are like phenomenology, or like neurophenomenology books, like The Ego Tunnel by Thomas Metzinger. Some stuff. Dan Zahavi is a really great phenomenologist who has this idea of a minimal self. But I'm also just reading like the Phenomenology of Perception by Merleau-Ponty. I mean, I read a lot of philosophy, I guess. But like, but I mean, like, but it's like this question of like phenomenology and like the description. How do you like describe consciousness and stuff? I guess that relates to identity in the book because it's a phenomenological experience of identity as I mean, I would agree with you that it's not essential, and it's in terms of like queer politics, I think it's something you stake out like over time or whatever. If your identity is precarious and people are fucking with you, you have to sort of like be strategic and I guess I don't know. I mean, it's unfortunately, but
well, oh wait, no, sorry, keep going. I mean,
I feel like my identity is probably like maybe this is the bad thing to say, but I was gonna say like. No, it's not. It wouldn't be right to say that my identity is more precarious than like the average queer person or something. That's not true. It's more like I think because I'm a weird person and an artist. Like my identity is just so weird that like nobody cares, and so I just have to like summon the willpower to like, just like do it anyway, like be that way anyways, or like. Maybe that's the focus thing, or like the willpower, or like pushing through, like even though, it's like you're, like just like doing whatever you can to like straighten your head out, like and just like do the job, like,
So this thing of like focusing and doing the job, because he keeps, I mean, this is like his job is to kill someone, and he keeps on just like gotta focus, gotta do the job.
Yeah.
Wait, so in your case, the sort of focusing and the doing the job and the like doing the hit thing for you would be to like resolve issues of identity and stake something out, or
I mean, I wouldn't limit my life to that, but I mean, I think
no, but I mean in the book, like what you're kind of relating to is that sort of an expression in the book of like do you feel like the hitman guy that's got to carry out this thing to define yourself? You know, I
definitely want to like not identify myself too much with that character. I mean, I was trying to, like write a character that was so weird and abstract that it couldn't possibly be me, and also, also just, but it's like, I guess I do have things in common with with Darby Frown.
Well, I mean,
then I feel, see, that's the thing though. Then I'm also like the goth dyke at the beginning, like. Like it wraps around. I think it is kind of a circular thing. You can read it as like, like maleness, like coming undone, or like, or congealing out of a more, amorphous feminine thing, or I don't know, or abject, like the feminine as like the abject outside of him because he's such a dick. And like,
well, I mean, I don't know about abject feminine versus being a dick masculine. I mean,
no, I'm sort of.
But I mean, it's not a stretch to say that he's a masculine. I mean, not just because he goes by he, but because his job is to like kill people with a gun. I mean, we can say that that's masculinity, right? I mean, like killing.
Wait, did you say? Right? Did you say we can say that that's masculinity?
Yeah, right. I mean, this is masculine.
Well, that's
right?
that's the first thing is like this idea that masculinity is just violence or
aggression. I mean,
right,
extroversion, penetration. I mean,
force. I mean, it's a problematic idea, I think, honestly. And like now that I'm in my really gay Judith Butler mode, I feel like I'm questioning this kind of like, well. I mean, I would always question that. Like the idea that like girls can't be badass and like tough and, like that's bullshit, or like,
right. Well, they can be
especially like a dyke goth chick who, like, if you think about, I don't know, like Trinity in the Matrix, or like the girl with the dragon tattoo, like these kind of like, Halberstam has a book called Female Masculinity that's kind of about this idea of like the androgynous dyke or whatever, like. But yeah, I feel like but I think that is an idea that I think a lot of men struggle with, or at least I certainly do, or have this idea of that if the more capable I am of like beating the shit out of people or murdering them, the more of a man I am. Like on some fucked up level. I think Norman Mailer said something about that, like how like you're a man if you fight fighting somebody, like literally just like
Well, yeah, yes,
like
that's masculine. Yes,
it
that
kind of
is.
is. It
That's
kind
not
of is.
that's not a perversion of. But see, this is
Well,
where I get this
it's
is where I get
perversion,
reactionary, James, though, because it's like punching someone in the face. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. There's just too much masculinity. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
maybe.
Like, I mean,
I
it's just a question of degree, right? I mean, it's like,
yeah,
like,
well, yeah, no, I mean, I mean, I still like. That's the thing is, I still kind of identify with that idea, but like, I think I am starting to question it more in the sense of like it says on the back, the blurb that I wrote, the sort of fake blurb where it's like,
oh, that's fake. That's not a real.
well, Alexander Meckel Jr. from the Ardella Creek Examiner. That's an anagram of my name. Like
Oh, okay, yeah,
like,
nice.
and so then like, okay, where BDSM and PTSD are just similar acronyms, symbolizing our rancid ennui and our yen for the beyond, etc. But
It
this
did
idea,
sound like you. Yeah, it
this
definitely
idea of
sounds like.
like acronym, just like acronyms are bullshit, or I don't know, like or that PTSD is bullshit, or like. But I definitely have some kind of PTSD, and it's definitely related to like this kind of male rage that has no outlet. Like all I can do is like going for long runs. I think sort of is the only thing that helps. But it's like all the kind of rap that I like is like the hardest, like most evil, like
Yeah, you're into violent shit for sure.
yeah, like
Yeah,
Gore-Tex and like nonfiction, Heavy Metal Kings, Jedi Mind Trick, like that kind of shit. And it's like I feel like I just feel like I really need to reconcile that with my like feminine side or female side if I am trans. I mean, it's like I don't think it's impossible to reconcile those things. I mean, it's like I feel, to be honest, like this is kind of funny, but I was thinking like, all right, so like if I were going to transition, like what would my name be? And I was like, so it should start with J. And then I just like looked up like women's names that start with J. And the first one that comes up is Juliet. And I was like, that'd be perfect because Sod, Juliet, like Sod and Shakespeare,
right. But you said Sod first.
Well, no,
You
Sod
think
is,
of the market as.
I mean, like Sod, Juliet. I mean, that. I think it would be badass. But yeah, I mean, this kind of sadomasochistic eras or whatever. I mean, that's my vibe. Whether I'm a man or a woman, And
Yeah.
but but yeah, the thing of like, but I don't know. What's a cool? You did a post about. I didn't get a chance to look at it, but the post about the piano teacher.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like the movie that I really love that deals with masochism. That's very kind of out there, but I'm sure you've seen Martyrs.
No, I have not.
Oh,
But who is that Haneke also or?
no, it's a French. It's like a new French extremity movie about. I almost don't want to spoil it for you.
Okay.
But it's it has this. It deals with like a kind of. I don't know if I want to call it. Well, it's kind of a lesbian movie, but it's also kind of like about masochism, but it's not masochism so much as it is sadism, like this sort of Sadian secret society of sadists are torturing women, and it's really fucked up. But I mean, the person who told me about that movie originally was this. Another thing, by the way, I mean, just a kind of personal, confessional, biographical thing in terms of my sense of my gender and shit. Like, all the women I've dated pretty much have been like very much kind of like they mostly dated women, like except for me or something. They're like lesbians, kind of,
Okay.
But like, anyways, one of these like hot goth lesbians told me about that movie Martyrs, and it's amazing. It's so good.
Okay. Who did it? Who's
Nicolas Logier? Or no, wait, that's the guy who wrote the book about the cultural history. Nicolas Logier wrote. It's Pascal Logier. I confuse him with Nicolas Logier or something, who wrote a book called In Praise of the Whip: A Cultural History of Arousal. But it's funny that they're both like But anyways, yeah, Pascal Logier.
Okay, and he's on that like 2000s like super violent French like
Yeah,
Gaspar
it's
Noé
the
type.
most fucked up one. I mean, it's like at the end she gets flayed alive.
It's funny because like Piano Teacher, people are like, oh, it's so hard to watch, and I'm like, am I fucked up that like there was really only like one scene that I found hard to watch? Like actually, like most of it, I was like, oh,
It's such an intellectual film. Like the line about Adorno and stuff.
yeah.
Like that's her defense against her like perverse desires is like to bring up Adorno or whatever. Like,
Well, she's talking about being on the brink on the brink of insanity.
I should
But
watch that video you did. But,
yeah. I kind of I don't talk about gender in that at all actually. Yeah, it's like I'm talking about violence and power though a little bit and like notation and stuff. I just with a lot of this shit though, it's like I don't know, like people talking about like masculine and feminine, you know, it's like I mean whatever is done or undone regarding pronouns or like language or whatever. I mean, just on some ancient, I don't know what, if that's Buddhist or Confucian, Asian, just like just masculine and feminine, the masculine principle and the feminine principle. Not talking about people, you know, not talking about people or
like
labels.
yin and yang.
Yeah, like literally just yin and yang, literally just the like expansive, penetrating, active force and the like receptive, you know, it's like that's not. I mean, that is real and profound and deep. Whatever you do with that, you know what I mean?
Right.
So
I mean, it's not really the same as gender. Like yin and yang aren't really the same as male and female. But
no, I mean it's less and less about that.
You know? I mean, I love like ancient like Chinese like shit.
Yeah.
Martial arts and.
Oh, you're gonna hear some music possibly in the background here, some Mexican music and shit because it's a weekend here. But yeah. I mean that's just. I mean that's where I'm kind of just like. That I think you can essentially. I mean, when people are just talking about like masculinity, like to me that just means the masculine principle, you know. And it's like women can be masculine and men can be masculine, or a non-binary person can be masculine. I mean, you know, I mean, we all have masculine and feminine sides, whatever we call ourselves. You know what I mean? So that kind of goes. That sort of goes beyond identity or is separate from identity. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
So that's why I don't know when people talk about like toxic masculinity, I'm always just like, doesn't that just mean too much masculinity, like at the wrong time? You know what I mean? Because it's like blasting someone in the face. Blasting someone in the face because like.
Well, come on, you have to think about the ethical implications of like kicking the shit out of somebody or like killing somebody.
Well, it depends on the situation, man. I mean, it's like
Wait, even murder? You're like. Well, I mean, I guess I'm friends with murderers.
So. Are you have friends who've murdered people? I mean,
I do, but I don't like.
But you don't.
That's not what I like about them.
Yeah.
I like how they've managed to like move beyond that. It's sort of, or I don't know. I mean, it's like I hang out with weird criminals and.
Well, we should talk about the murderers you hang out with, maybe off camera or something like that. But like all I'm saying with just this thing of like people talking about toxic masculinity, I'm like, look, somebody,
what's a deep book though? Is the Orders of Evil by Adi Ophir. That guy's an Israeli philosopher. I mean, he talks about Auschwitz, obviously, but like, it's such a dope book. That very idea of the orders, there are
degrees of evil.
There are that there are degrees, and I mean, life is complicated, and if you're not, I think you have to be sort of cynical, I guess, to like, to exist in the world and make your way through it, I guess. Does that make sense as a response to what you're saying? Or
yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, I'm only. I mean, all I'm saying is just simply that I mean, being aggressive and violent is not inherently bad. It's only bad when it's too much or if it's at the wrong time. That's all, you know. So I sort of
Well, certainly not. Yeah, I would never say that aggression is. I think
I mean,
aggression is really good.
I mean, and it's masculine. I mean, you know what I mean? It's, I mean,
Well,
women can
I
do
think
it. I mean, women do it, you know, but it's a masculine principle. I mean, like stabbing someone in the eye is masculine, right? It's like,
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of wild. I mean, it's kind of like out there. I don't know. I mean, women are aggressive. I mean, like
right. But I'm not talking about women versus men. I'm talking about just masculinity. You know what
well,
I
I
mean?
think
It's like,
the way that we think about that kind of stuff is obviously rooted in different norms and epistemes that yeah, I mean, I think my hope is that people will start to see like those kind of qualities as not necessarily being specific to different genders. I don't know. I don't really care. It's not.
yeah.
I'm not like I don't really. I'm not here to like be like, hey, like I'm tough. Like you know what I mean?
Right. Well, no, of course. I mean, yeah, nor are you trying to deny that you're tough. Yeah. No. I know. Right. But I'm not saying that violence. I'm not saying that women can't be violent or shouldn't be violent.
Yeah.
I'm saying that it's a masculine quality.
I don't know. I just feel like violence is sort of abstract, and I don't. I mean, like I don't know, like Lizzie Aldrich, who just died tragically, but she
Yeah, I hear the name.
stabbed her girlfriend, and she was
Oh,
pretty.
she was a friend of yours, right? Or
We were
right.
we were like in love. I mean, we were really close. It's
Oh, wow.
really yeah, it's fucked up.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm sorry about that loss, man. I know a lot of people, you know, or I just, yeah, I mean, people I heard.
All I know is she OD'd on fentanyl. I don't know any details about it because I'm not really close with her family or anything.
Yeah.
But we wrote this zine together, and yeah, she was super queer. I mean, she was violent as fuck. I mean, or like her life was violent, like like but I don't know. It's
Yeah, Lizzie Aldrich. Is it what should people check
or
out?
Elizabeth Aldrich.
Elizabeth Aldrich. Yeah, what should people check? Because this is, I mean, just for people who are tuning in, I mean, this is she's a young writer, right? I mean, this is
yeah. It's
what should people check out of
well, there's the book.
Aldrich?
They should just read her book, Ruthless Little Things. I mean, you could also check out the stuff that we wrote together.
What's that called?
Well, I mean, okay, so we wrote this. Expat Press published this piece called "Cocaine Doom" with video on Zoom, which kind of kicked off our collaborations. And I've published some excerpts on my blogs from this long zine called "Cotton Candy World Soul" that we were working on.
And great title.
She came up with the title. I was like, could we call it something different? Because it's just such a girly title. But now that she's dead, I'm just like, fuck it. Like, I'll.
Now that she's dead and you're a woman, it's like you're like.
Now that she's dead, I might be a woman. Like, no, I was thinking of calling it because I wanted to call it WorldSoul.internet, which I just thought was badass. But I might call it like Cotton Candy World Soul / WorldSoul.internet. So you got the yin and the yang. But yeah, that's working on that has been the only way to really grieve about it. But yeah, it's really sad.
Yeah. I mean, we could actually, this is sort of less theoretical, but more just sort of like what kind of just talking about what's up in the literary world. I mean, there's some stuff like, like Expat Press is, I mean, because I feel like for a while I didn't know anyone really in the literary world, and now people are kind of popping up, you know, and people seem to be, Expat seems to be a place where people are doing a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Is that what people mean when they say alt lit? Is that what
Yeah, I think it's fine to call it alt lit. I don't. It's like, what else are you gonna call it? Like indie writing, or I mean, you could say underground writing or underground literature would probably be the best thing to call it.
It just means underground.
It really is underground, and it really is good, and it's a really intense, interesting scene. I think it's cool. Yeah, I think I feel like I'm moving away. I want to kind of move away from that scene in the sense of just like moving into different other media.
Yeah.
But it's vibrant. I mean, there's some really good fucking like this.
I read cool shit on the Expat.
Negative
website.
Space by B.R. Yeager. Like by far this is one of the best. I would rep this, and I would rep America by Will Bernardaro Jr. as being like the best shit that I've read.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
in terms of my friends who, yeah.
And actually, yeah. So I mean, if we're talking about alt lit, that's really more of a scene, right? It's not like a.
Well, and obviously Liz's book. Yeah.
It's not really alt lit. Doesn't really refer to like a stylistic genre vibe.
I feel like alt lit that was more like the Tao Lin era of or something. I don't know.
Who's that? What's
Oh, he's just we don't even
some whack shit that's over.
Yeah, he's not really important. I mean, no, he's.
I mean,
no, he's just like, you know. I know I'm sort of joking because people love to hate on him because he's so like famous and successful. Like, I mean, he's like one of the people who blew up from that scene. But it's like his writing is kind of dumb. Let's be real. Like, it's kind of. I wrote actually an article kind of reviewing his book Taipei and comparing it to Timur Sequin's installation art, in the sense that they both deal with a kind of what Deleuze calls transcendental stupidity. And
who talks about transcendental stupidity?
Deleuze, like Deleuze talks about stupidity. Yeah, like stupidity as like a plane of immanence, and
I've never read that. What is
Taipei is like stupidity. Like it's like Kerouac. If Kerouac was just like a boring ass hipster, I'm not holding back. I'm not gonna...
Wait, what is transcendental stupidity though? Because I haven't read like what.
No, it's just I don't know. Deleuze just has a weird, funky way of writing about stupidity. I actually think that the most interesting thing is Theatricum Philosophicum by Foucault, which I read when I got back for the first time when I got back to my dorm room after the acid trip Judith Butler lecture. He actually talks about LSD, like in that. He talks about drugs, and he talks about it's a review of Deleuze. It's a review of logic of sense and difference and repetition, and he talks about he talks about the idea of stupidity, like riffing on Deleuze in his own way, but the stuff he says about that and about madness and it's just so amazing. Foucault is so brilliant. I mean, his book on Raymond Roussel influenced me a lot, I think.
Word. So wait, how did we get on transcendental stupidity? Because I was asking about
I was just saying it Tao Lin
and Expat.
Tao Lin's kind of stupid.
Oh, okay, right. But not even transcendental. He's just like
No, it's just you know what? There's some things I like about it. It's just sort of boring. I don't know. It's just not that interesting. It's just sort of like lurching through this very kind of petit bourgeois drug haze and making like Tim and Eric jokes about everything.
Mm-hmm. I've got an interesting. So this is some interesting shit to me. Transgression. Mm-hmm. Just that word, that idea. I keep coming back to it because people just have all these ideas about what's like transgressive and whatnot, and I've never heard you use that word to describe what you're doing, which I think is cool, and I'm not, and I wouldn't call it trans. I don't really go around calling things transgressive, but the reason I bring up the word is just because my little brushing up against the sort of the alt lit kind of world. I mean, I hear people talking kind of about like transgressive literature, transgressive art, or people being like, yeah, like I want some, X, Y, and Z is so boring. We need something like transgressive. Like, is that like a thing that you're into as an idea? Like, is that?
Yeah. What? I wanted to just ask. You said something like, 3 hours is the limit. Is there? Could we possibly take a quick break so I can just get a cup of coffee and another cup?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. How long? I mean,
literally just a couple minutes just to run downstairs and get some water and.
Yeah. Go for it.
That's okay. Okay, and I'll be right. back. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll this stuff
Okay.
can actually be edited later. Here, you know what I'm gonna do?
Okay.
I'm gonna should I leave his empty window here? Actually, anyone, I get the impression it's only Crom that is watching the stream right now. It seems like it's only Crom. Oh no, we got Lamberton in the house. Do either of you lurking friends want to ask a question? Of course, you really should be asking a question for James, not me. But any questions? See, I haven't even been like laying down so much stuff. I've been letting James riff on where he's at instead of taking up too much space here. Personally, okay, so I asked him about transgression. Personally, I'm less and less into the idea every single day, but I'm always interested in what other people think is transgressive, or what's cool, what's just what people mean by transgressive, because it's like some stuff that I've read from that scene has a sort of like edgy, in the sense of like people write stuff that they think is transgressive because it's might offend somebody, like racially, or it's like politically incorrect or something like that. That always, I don't know, people are always like, that's transgressive, whereas like I don't really get that vibe from James's work. But it is violent. Is violence inherently a transgressive thing? Even though I don't know, that's sort of, this is the shit that goes through my mind. When it comes to anything that's like weird, especially if it's weird and violent, I'm like, is this transgressive? Does the author think that it's transgressive? Do people take it as crossing a boundary? Yeah. I don't know, man. Any thoughts? Any riffs on what I'm saying?
Totally. I mean, because it's funny, because we were just talking about Foucault, but he has the best. He wrote an essay that was about Bataille called Preface to Transgression, where he just sort of critiques the whole idea. I mean, it's a very rich essay, but like, it's basically just this idea, or at least this is my reading of Foucault and transgression, or it's such a simple idea. I don't even know if I got it from that essay, but it's a good essay. But it's just like the idea that if you're doing something just to be edgy, it's not going to be that good. Like,
Sure.
It's not, like, I think shock value is great, and like you should use that. But I think of this thing that like Truman Capote said about writing, which is that if you want to make your reader feel a certain feeling, you should work on that until you're kind of desensitized to the feeling yourself. And that way you can coldly kind of construct it in a way it's going to deliver, it's going to pack more of a punch.
I love that.
Whereas
That's
if you're just
very
like,
interesting.
like this will show them, like this will get them, it's not going to work. It's not, or it's just not going to be as good. It's going to be
Right.
shrill. It's going to sound shrill or come up as shrill.
Right. Yeah.
I hesitate to ever use the word cringe to describe art, because I like so much kind of like trashy, like outsidery shit, and like B movies and stuff that just has a kind of trashadelic aesthetic or whatever. But yeah, you could be cringe in the sense of it just being bad if you're
Right.
just trying to fuck with people and you're not thinking about the integrity of like the writing or the work or whatever. You're just thinking about like this will show them, like that's on a deeper level. I think like, well, this is a broader, more pretentious like question or idea, but like I've been thinking a lot about how like Marcel Duchamp said that there's your immediate public and then there's the ideal public, and the immediate public sort of accepts you and takes you in and whatever, and then the ideal public, he, according to Duchamp, will be like 50 to 100 years after your death. And that's what you should think about, like when you're making your work. And I thought that was a fucking great idea. I mean,
Do you have an ideal public?
Like, the immediate public is like, it's the immediate public that takes you in and accepts you and gives you success and everything, And it's just like the idea that's such bullshit. Like that, or, well, I don't know. It's not complete. I mean, I think community is important with art, and like I don't think it's not all bullshit, but it is. But yeah, anytime you're like, this will show them, like, I think that's not going to be. I feel like there's always going to be a little bit of that kind of a vibe, but I think you have to just try to temper that with being just disciplined about the formal aspects of the work, or the disciplinary aspects of it, or whatever.
Yeah, because what you're like, I mean, the book is definitely does not it doesn't have a vibe of like try hard, like trying to be edgy, but it is in a world that, like, I don't know, like stuff with violence in it, and stuff with like internet culture and stuff that deals with gender and like stuff of the moment. I feel like stuff that I've read in that is dealing with that often is trying to shock, whereas like your stuff, that doesn't seem like it's going for shock value in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unless, I don't know. I mean, violence is inherently transgressive, though, right? And I mean, in a certain way, right? Because it's like we have laws against it and shit. But,
yeah, I mean, I guess I think of that as like how, like literature or art just deals with like the problem of evil and like the ethical, and I think you have. I think it's you almost. I feel like you almost have a duty as an artist to express stuff that is not ethical, that isn't good, that's like this fucked up, like,
yeah,
and that's I think, I don't know, that's definitely Bataille's view, like with the idea of like literature and evil. I don't exactly agree with Bataille on that anymore, in the sense that he's just so over the top about like transgression and evil and stuff. And I mean, I don't know, it's complicated. I think I'm really obviously really influenced by like Sade and Klosowski and Bataille, these like transgressive writers, but I feel like I frame it in a way that is maybe more civilized, or is more bourgeois or something. I don't know.
Well, I mean, yeah, is there a moral dimension to Hitman? I mean, that's an interesting. I mean, because like that guy is not really, the character in it is not. I mean, is he evil? He's cold-blooded. He's doing his job. He's not sadistic.
I mean, I would say he's evil, but I just think the identity of that character, not in terms of gender, but in terms of his actual job, or what is he even doing, is supposed to be ambiguous. I mean, the fact that I just state over and over, that he's killing people, that's part of like the gimmick of the book, I guess. It's like if you just say it, like, is it true? I mean, it's fiction, but it's like, it's almost this idea that just you can just oh man, it's just this idea that like just because you say something, like you have to believe it, like the reader has to believe it, or like the reader has to accept it to like get into the world of the book. Maybe you don't. I mean,
Wait, how do you mean? You mean the fact that he doesn't kill anyone until he does kill someone? I mean,
well, no, he does. He describes him killing people, but I'm just saying, like, it's obviously not meant to be like quote unquote realistic, or like, or like, or whatever, like, or like it's not a realistic. Well, I think the thing that maybe is realistic and hopefully disturbing is just the way, like his use of mantras, and the way that he's just. Like he's like a killing machine, in the sense that he's like sort of, just like hypnotizing himself into like, or whatever, whatever method he's using, all these weird methods to get himself into the frame of mind of just like being a cold-blooded killer. And I think people that do, some people, crazy people who do like really bad shit are really like that. They will, find it's like a they'll have their rituals to get all gung-ho about, whatever, like it's like I feel like he's a little bit like Son of Sam or something, like where he has this sort of like weird psychosis, and like it's like he's receiving these commands and like yeah, he's psychotic. I mean, I guess that's funny though. Legally, is he evil? Because if somebody's crazy, you can you can plead insanity.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know what evil seriously is, man. Because I mean, I guess the first thing off the top of my head is like cruel, like sadism for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Like that seems to be evil off the top of my head. But obviously there's other forms of evil. I suppose you could say lying, but even that's not like inherently evil. I suppose.
What do you mean, like lying about?
I mean, about anything, deliberately lying, I suppose, is,
I think the interesting thing about lying is that it's not necessarily that bad, but it makes you feel guilty if you do it. Like, or it's one of those things where I
think it's bad, man. I think lying is bad. We all do it sometimes. You make a call, but in general, yeah.
Well, I guess it just depends on what you. Well, there's that Nietzsche essay on truth and lies in an extra moral sense.
Yeah, don't know it.
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say that I would. I think it depends on the how bad the lie is. I mean,
right. No, I know. Yeah, it's right. There's
it's
like
a little
there's
white lie, then that's fine. I mean,
right. It's not evil to be like, good set, man. Like whatever.
You know what disturbs me more than like lying per se is mythomaniacs who just make shit up and to fuck with you. Like, I don't know. I've encountered people like this who just like they'll just like tell you the story, and you're just like, wait a minute, this is bullshit. Like, this isn't true at all. And it's like, but they're trying so hard to like convince you. I don't know. It's just a funny type of insanity. Like,
I've encountered people like this. Yeah, I don't know anyone like this. Yeah. But like, yeah, I mean, like evil. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, okay. Well, so that's okay. Like, you're obviously you wouldn't say that masculinity is evil, right?
No, I mean,
I would think that.
I would definitely question that idea of masculinity being.
You don't think that, obviously, but but Hitman, the guy is hyper masculine, and gender is at issue. His gender and your own through writing this book, and evil is also at issue. That's interesting to me. I don't know, right? I mean, sort of like he.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he is.
Yeah,
evil,
yeah, I mean, on a very personal level, I think, in terms of the alienation I felt about, questioning if I'm trans and stuff, like, there's definitely this thought, kind of like an intrusive thought or whatever, that comes up more than an intrusive thought, like an actual feeling, like, am I a bad person? And it's like, no, I'm a good person. I'm not a bad person. Like, I get into this funk like that sometimes. And it's like, I really struggle. Like, sometimes I struggle with that, like wondering if I'm evil.
Based on what?
But I'm obviously not. I'm obviously, I'm not a bad.
I don't know what you've done.
Well, no, I mean,
you've always done right by me, man. I mean, I
haven't done anything that's that bad. I mean, it's like, no, I'm saying it's a neurotic thing about like my sexuality or whatever. Like the idea that if you have an edgy sexuality or something, I had the weirdest encounter recently with this guy who was like totally batshit fundamentalist Christian. I just random. I'm not gonna say who it was, but I was talking to them like, because they're part of the writing scene, but they're clearly mentally ill. But I didn't really know them, and they started talking to me like all this shit about like God and love and Yahweh this and like Yeshua that, and I was just like, yeah, okay, interesting, like, and then I was like, well, okay, my perspective on this as a queer person, like, some religious people can be kind of, like phobic about the body and like this and that. And I was like, have you read on Nietzsche by Bataille? And and then he just went on this, and he went into this thing where he's like, well, there's a holy war, happening, and basically he said like that the angelic hordes are gonna wipe gay people off the face of the earth.
Oh Jesus! Well, that's end of conversation there.
It rattled me so much. I was so mad. I just flipped out. I was like, I don't care if this guy's mentally ill. Like, I was, fuck you, man. Like, you're on some. I sent him like a Gore-Tex song.
Yeah, man. I mean,
I was just like, I was like, man, that guy. I hope that guy fucking. I have bad shit happens to that guy. Because I was just like, Just when I'm like questioning shit, it was literally Mercury retrograde shit. It was like right towards the end of Mercury retrograde, but it was just like I was so disturbed by that, like that somebody could be that crazy, just like you're like love. Oh, by the way, you're evil.
Yeah, they literally. Yeah, I
Because
mean,
you're gay, or like because and I'm
no. If someone
one
wants
thing
you
he said
wiped,
that was super fucked up was he was like, hey man, whatever you're into, I know what you're into. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah.
like reading my shit and like, you know what I'm, it's like,
Yeah. Well, but this
so awful. It was
but this gets beyond moral shit, because someone literally wants you dead or is trying to kill you in some way, it stops being about you're no longer evaluating, are they evil or are they just blah blah blah. I mean, it's self-defense. I mean, you're gonna kill, it's just like kill or be killed, right?
Well, but I mean, it's not literal, actual physical violence.
No, but I mean, if
like
somebody
this
wants
weird fantasy, and the idea that like clearly my life means nothing to him, and he does want me to,
right. No, that's what I'm saying. Even if you're not literally, physically getting into violence, if somebody wants you dead, then you want them dead. Regardless of like, oh, are they evil or are they not evil? It sort of gets beyond.
I mean, I had to just find a way to get over it, but I was really mad for a while, and I guess it's one of these. I mean, I guess it's just like it was upsetting because it triggered a lot of like PTSD kind of shit, and I'm just like, I guess that's why I'm getting really into Butler's, because she's such an ethical thinker, and this idea of she's into nonviolence. She read a book, The Force of Nonviolence, and then this question of like, do queer lives matter? Do trans lives matter? It seems, I guess it could seem like libtardy or whatever, but it's like, for me personally, it's like just the fact that there are people that want me dead or whatever, or they're, especially if I did transition, like, that would make me so much more compromised, in the world, and like, how would I deal with that, so it's sort of scary, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, there's a difference between somebody valuing your life, or someone valuing another person's life, versus them accepting and engaging with conceptual stuff around the person's identity, though, right? I mean, it's like, that to me is just the difference between like good faith and bad faith, man. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, if someone's just like, I mean, there's a difference between a human life and like the ideas and language surrounding that person's life, right? I mean,
well, yeah, you mean like, it's, you feel like you want to be able to question the validity of identity politics, but you're not like, you don't hate queer people, or
oh god, no. Yeah, I mean, no, it's like all fucking it's all love at last things. I mean, it should be,
I appreciate that. I mean,
but yeah, no, it ought to be, but I guess what I'm saying is just right now with the discourse around gender, it's like so much it's like there's such a fine line between questioning all the concepts versus actually just like hating people or whatever, or like disrespecting people, you know what I mean? Or
I mean, it is, well, I mean, it's like, I guess if you think about ethics as a kind of global thing of just caring about what happens in the world, like this is Butler's whole shtick is like, it's like, come on, like there's, like a trans person walks into a Burger King in a certain town, and the way she put it in this lecture was, unless they're really good at self-defense, they're in danger. It's like, I mean, like, that's totally true. Yeah. And I mean, as I've been thinking about this, I think about like the show, Euphoria, and like Hunter Schafer, who's so like iconic or whatever.
I haven't actually seen Euphoria still.
Hunter Schafer is like, I really like, I mean, I really like her. She's very, I mean, she's just so, she's so charismatic, and she just seems cool, honestly. Yeah. Like when I watch interviews and stuff. But she's like, it's just a great show because it's like the first show where there's a really prominent and really cool, charismatic trans. I mean, of course, it's like, okay, she's a model, like they're really hot, like that.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's like,
that's cool.
you need to have that. Like you
You
need to
do.
have
Yes.
that
Yes.
to be like. You know. Anyways, there's a line that the show, like there's a like the very first episode, Hunter's character, who's called Jules, shows up at a party, and this dude who's like a total, oh man, such a weird sort of cliche character, but he's like a football jock who's just completely evil, and he like comes up to her, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing here? And then he's like, I know what you are. And I just think about that line, like that line is just that's such a fucked up. And then there's another part where it's like, where he's like talking to her, and he's like, you're just so fucking broken inside, like that kind of shit. You know, when you think about that kind of hate that's just so intense, and that like lots of people obviously feel, you know, like,
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, there's nothing.
Yeah. No,
I mean, well, it's not true. No, I was going to say there's nothing you could do, but hopefully there is. Hopefully,
right. Well, yeah. I mean, that shit is real, regardless. I mean, of any discourse. I mean, or, you know, I mean, or just first and foremost, like, you know, that's, or not regardless, but.
I mean, I'm sort of just talking about my own psychic wounds and stuff, but it's like when you know,
well,
yeah,
people
it's
not
like,
being safe. I mean,
it's like my go. I can get. Yeah, it's like when I was thinking about this recently, it was like, I was feeling like, man, it's fucked up because I almost don't even feel like it's safe for me to even think about this. And that was why I was so determined to think about it. I became so determined to think about it. And then I was like, I'm definitely going to talk about it here. You know, the idea that it would be, you know, wouldn't be safe to even think about. Like, you know, and it's like, and it's like my parents are so nice and supportive, but they don't get it, you know? And I have obviously queer friends who are supportive, but it's like such a personal internal, it's such a I mean, it's such a personal thing. So it's sort of a solitary thing. I mean,
well, maybe it'll be less solitary. I mean, maybe identifying, you know, maybe it'll be less solitary. Maybe you're moving to a place where it's less solitary, or you feel less solitary about it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like there's a girl I'm talking to online who's queer, and like yeah, I mean, if I'm trans, I'm definitely like a lesbian or something, I think. But I think it's like she's been supportive, but then it's like she disappears, and it's like, you know, and it was kind of like that with Liz, and she died, you know. And I keep listening to that song Terrence Loves You by Lana Del Rey, where it has that line, I lost myself when I lost you. It's like, that's like really sad. But that's what I listen to, and when I think about Liz, like recently, it's like, because it's like these there's this idea of like, if you're queer, like you find these kind of like alternate families, like you find people that care.
Chosen family.
You find people that for me it's really been girls that I've been involved with who are obviously queer and were like totally cool. But the problem is that it's a personal thing. At the end of the day, it's like, you know, people can be supportive and they can be like help you think about it and experiment, but it's like I have to decide, as I put it, you know, if I was going to pull the trigger on transitioning, like that would be it's my body and it's my life, and it's not, and you know, nobody else. But then that also makes me feel alone, because it's just so like, there's just like this alienation, I guess.
No, that sounds difficult, man. I mean, it sounds very difficult. But I mean, clearly your writing is, I mean, it's only going to help, right? I mean, it's only going to help you formulate this, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been writing a lot recently. I've mostly just been editing the the thing I wrote with Liz. Like that zine that we worked on together feels like a safe space, you know? It's like that. Yeah, the idea of a safe space is like, I understand how you can make fun of it, but it's like, it's so important for me. Like now, it's like, it's such a real thing. And then where you find that is like, can be really hard. Because it's like, I can be tough and strong and, you know, in you know, will to power mode or whatever, you know, or I'm just pushing. But it's like at the end of the day, it's like, it can be really hard. It's hard. Yeah.
But do you see? No, but this is it's talking about feeling safe and feeling comfortable talking about this kind of stuff or being open, like thinking openly. I mean, you feel like it sounds like you do feel like the alt lit scene, and especially the scene surrounding expat and just people, you in general, you feel safe to talk about this kind of stuff in that world. You feel like there's
it's like people there are totally cool and supportive, like people like Mika or Jasa, who's trans and who edits Surfaces, or Damien Ark, who wrote Fucked Up, who I kind of know, but like not that well, but like these are like they're genderqueer, and there's people in the scene that are queer who have been friendly and supportive, but like that I'm not like really close friends with, and I think it's always, it's like right now it's like this goth chick I'm talking to online has been helpful, but she's dealing with a lot of personal shit, of her own, and so it's like she's not always around.
But in general, the vibe of that scene though is good for a queer person. I mean, there's a lot of queer people around. I mean,
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, just because I know there's also kind of a reaction bent within that world as well, somewhat, right? I mean,
I mean, maybe I don't know.
But it doesn't. But it doesn't become kind of anti. It doesn't become homophobic or.
I mean, I think there is some like xenophobic shit in the air, but it's like not. I mean, it's it's all fine or whatever. It's like,
no, that's good. This is information for me, man. You know what I mean? Because I know so little about that scene, and I just kind of like I encounter little things. And like edgy shit, I don't know, like just like a lot of young people who are into like being edgy or like I said, transgressive, like it does often kind of go into some like, modes that I would consider disrespectful or whatever, of like trans. But I mean, the thing is, like, I don't even like sometimes I don't like to even use these words like phobic, like transphobic, you know what I mean? I just kind of say like disrespectful to or hateful of, or
I mean that's a more
just civilized. I mean, just because like transphobic people can easily be like, well, dude, I don't hate, I'm not, it's like, okay, right, you don't hate anyone, but like maybe you're being disrespectful or something, or sort of
like, I think it's like important to I mean, if you are queer, like to trust your feelings about that stuff, because people can gaslight you sort of,
right, it's
like they're being disrespectful, and it's whatever. You could tell if they're being negative, and it's sort of. I think it's like I just feel like as long as like somebody isn't like literally like insulting me, like this crazy dude with the fucking Final Solution.
That's just wishing death upon you.
I mean, like that, then I'm like, okay, whatever. It's all fine. I feel like like I was just saying in a DM last night on Twitter, like you were saying, like, I feel like sometimes I get in a reactionary mode or whatever, and I was like, what, I feel like I get that like in your most recent record, I feel like it's much less that way than like Sparta, say, which I feel like, I'll be honest, Sparta kind of hurt my feelings.
Really?
Like, yeah, in some ways I felt a little
along what lines, like what
I think it was maybe the track Animal Outside that made me feel like this idea, or Are We Animals Still, like this idea where there's like like a category of human that maybe is subhuman or something, or implying an abject out. I mean, Butler talks about the feminine and the queer as like an abject outside to like heteronormative privilege or whatever.
Well, man, I'm sorry.
It's not. That's my problem. I mean,
it's not your. Well, it's not your problem, nor am I sorry. It's more just that it's more just that like that's just completely not even what I'm talking about in that song. Even like that's actually the most like libtarded, like nice guy song out of anything that I've read.
Just being paranoid. I mean,
well, no, it's okay.
I just feel like no. I mean, it's funny because I'm talking about being fucked up about maybe being trans and shit, but like I think I'm in a more stable place emotionally. But I also feel like your new record is much more. It feels more inclusive than the Nothing Human stuff and in Sparta.
I mean, Nothing Human is just fashed out. I mean, it's like, let's just fucking call that what it is. I mean, not totally, but like it's the most like, but
But don't you think that like you use that stuff as a kind of a material, like as a like Moldbug or what or Land or whatever, it becomes sort of like your own thing. Like, do you really see it as like fascist music?
No. I mean, there's look, there's a lot of ambivalence and multiple angles there and stuff. I don't know. I'm like weirdly not into talking about my own stuff today. I don't know why.
It's okay. I don't. It's
like
whatever.
okay. I will say this. Like that song "What's Been Lost" on the new record.
Mm-hmm.
That the point of view of that song, it's not my ideology. It's not what I literally think, like, let's do this in the world. But the perspective in that song is, like, quite unnuanced, just, like, return to tradition.
Yeah.
Like, like, let's go back to when men were men and violence and shit. I mean, it is, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like that. It's return with a V. Like, that's the vibe. And, I mean, that's not, like, what I think should happen, like, policy-wise in the fucking world. But it's, like, it's a feeling that I do have in certain cases, or at the very least, I get why people are brain spiraling off into that kind of thing. I mean, I get why that's happening. You know what I mean? But
yeah. I mean, I just think it's interesting. I mean, yeah. It's like obviously I don't. Like the idea of returning to tradition can be a cool sort of romantic idea that connects say like medieval like literature and shit. With like courtly. Like knights and princesses and dragons and like, I mean, I love that kind of shit. Like, I was just reading like Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, because that's my thing. I feel like sexually I'm sod, but like romantically I'm like the original Tristan text or whatever, like or anything that's like really cheesy, where it's just like this courtly thing of like pursuing writing letters and like
courtly love,
courting, and that's I love that shit. I mean, it's like but it's like that to me connects, that connects to like the early Extra Life shit, and like it has this kind of Byron-esque like quality, and then like the new stuff, I think it's interesting that it has a more military vibe, but I just want to say Diagonal Power is just such a great track. It's a fucking awesome.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. I'm glad you're feeling it, man. I tried to move away from like lyrics, actually. I mean, there's just fewer lyrics in the stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And Diagonal Power is very much about like avoiding ideology, retreating from ideology, trying to flee away from politics or this kind of thing. Sort of
politics now is so chaotic. It's so everything is seems sort of messed up, and it's like I feel like personally I'm just trying. I'm into this idea of like there's this book that Eflux put out called Super Community, and the subtitle is like perverse togetherness in the age of like internet art or something like that. But this idea of like perverse togetherness, I mean, I don't literally like think of like that it should be perverse, but just this idea that you could sort of like with artists. I mean, come on, it's like you should be. It's not like you make some like fashed out music and you're like fucking Ezra Pound or something, like hanging out with Mussolini. You're just like,
well, I mean,
like thinking about these ideas, and like it feeds into your work, and because it's so passionate and emotional, it's like it's just like your aesthetic. It's not, it's not necessarily like at this point. I don't really care if somebody's going work is sort of reactionary, but like overall, like it's just really good work. Like I don't really That's kind of how I feel, to be honest, about Manuel Moreira, Expat. Like him and I have always kind of been a little bit.
He's
like,
a writer. He's a writer for
well,
Expat.
he's the editor of Expat Press, and,
Okay.
and he's written a couple books. And
Was it Manuel? What is it? Manuel who?
Moreira.
Moreira.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. I mean, him and I think, have had a funny, almost frenemy kind of relationship.
Okay.
But we're cool. We're cool. But it's just, I think I detect this sort of slightly reactionary, xenophobic. Like he has a chapter in Not Yet called finalsolution.exe, which I feel like it's a little bit like, I don't know.
Well, I think that's why I was kind of asking, because I don't know him in particular, but maybe I have.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy. He's not really.
No. It doesn't sound like you're talking shit, but nor am I trying to get you to talk shit on people, but I am interested.
No, I wouldn't.
Because I do like some of the stuff that I've skimmed and read through, not just on Expat, but on like other just sort of surrounding like stuff. Yeah, like I do get a vibe that's like on some. Yeah, like reactionary, like not hateful of anyone, but just on some just like, so anti-libtard that
Right.
it's just kind of like, oh, whatever about gender. You know what I mean? It's sort of like that kind of vibe. Just on some just like, oh, it's cringe that we're even like whatever. Like that kind of attitude, which is like, I definitely don't see as evil, but it's like not respectful. And I could see it being a problem for someone, especially someone who's coming out or coming into their own. As
right. I mean, I think I see that as sort of related to this idea of a will to power within art, and like with Boris Groys's work, like the book Art Power, or the total art of Stalinism, which I love. I think like the way, as a critic and if I can push things and influence things, I want to see. Honestly, in a sense, I feel accelerationist about this. I don't feel this way about fucking skinheads. Like those people are scum. But like the people in the art world, like they're just like struggling with thinking about shit. And it's like one time I was talking on the phone with Manny, and he was like, "Yeah, man, like it's all about fascism, man. Like Mussolini." And I was like, "Come on, man, do you really mean that? Like, like what the fuck are you talking about? You're just a writer, like."
Well, that's what.
It's like, but it's just like, no, it's like the will to power of art itself. And I think that goes back to the original futurist movement and Marinetti, who hung out with Mussolini. And like Marinetti was totally fascist. And of course, my hero is like, Tristan Tzara and like the Dadaists, because they were making fun of that pretension of like art is going, we're going to change the world, like,
right.
Like, or we're going to burn it all down or whatever, and it's like, come on, man. Like, no, you're not. Like, it's like, but I mean, like, maybe like, Hitler will and Mussolini, but like, if you're just a fucking artist, like you're not, or like Stalin, and the way Stalin thought about art and made artists make art under, like socialist realism is like, Stalin says that like the artist is the engineer of the soul, and you're
which is awesome. I remember you wrote
that.
It
is an awesome idea
in a review of in a review of one of my tracks or something. You wrote that like artist is like the Stalin thing, the engineer of the soul.
Yeah. I feel like hyperpop is totally on that kind of trip, like where it's just so manipulative, and I love that. I like that because it's queer and it creates a safe space. It's not negative, it's not bad, and then it's like But yeah, just with like Marinetti, it's like this idea that art does influence politics, but in a very ambiguous way, and then and you can have a sense of humor about it. It's like let's just pretend you're playing like Dungeons and Dragons, or not Dungeons and Dragons, but like a game that's more like what's the game where it's like strategy, where it's like is it Risk?
Yeah,
I
think Risk.
Or something like.
Well, okay, but here's the thing though. You did describe and I don't want to hold you to this if you're just like, I didn't mean that, or that was whatever. But in your video that you made, your short video about Hitman, you described Hitman as quote unquote left-wing propaganda. Maybe there was a little bit of a sly,
that was
maybe
just
a wink or something. But you meant something by that. Is it propagandistic? I did not get that at all.
No.
I almost thought it was the opposite. But
I was just kind of joking. It's just like this like ultra kind of homophobic idea that like queer people are like trying to like make like Mika did a zine called Psy Mortar. This idea of like queerness as a psyop, and it's like, you know, like this sort of, or even just the left or something like that, where that you know, when people get paranoid and conspiracy pilled, and you think that like I mean, I like, you know, I love like Gore-Tex and like nonfiction and stuff, because it's like it's so conspiracy pilled, and it's so, to me, like I feel like if you got into that shit and just forget about Moldbug, that guy's a geek. Listen to Gore-Tex. It's so over the top.
I don't love Moldbug that much, by the way.
I'm just sort of saying, like,
I'm just the guy that told a lot of my friends about him first. That's why. That's all.
Yeah.
I spread him around to my friends. I'm not like, I don't, you know.
I mean, Manuel had him at a reading or something, read some of his poetry and shit. I'm gonna, you know, get really high and like you know, in total irony, not taking it seriously mode, go through his like Substack and shit at some point. But
the Substack isn't that great. It's really the unqualified reservations, the blog. I mean, that's the like. But whatever. Let's no more on that dude. No more on that dude. But
okay. But I just don't take him serious. I don't really. I just don't. I can't. Yeah. No. It's like, I just feel like people should. Yeah. Like, you should have a sense of humor, at least in terms of art and politics. Like, there should be irony, you know, people should have irony, and also in a way more confidence, because if you were just like going to be like, if somebody literally like was like, if I was like, Hitman is, you know, like, this is like, you know, my ascent to, like, you can't stop me, my book is gonna like, you know, like, fuck shit up, man, like, watch out, like, what the fuck, you know, it's like, that's some of those pretentious, like, you know, like, how could you, you know, but people think that privately, or like they talk about it, you know, with their friends, like, man, like, this is gonna, I mean, it's just the idea that you can influence politics as an artist seems so naive that I feel like it should just be treated as a joke.
Well, that's, dude, I mean, see, this is considered a reactionary position. Like, this is the thing, man. I mean, just, there is a thing, dude. I mean, this, like, I don't apply for grants or shit like that. I mean, I just like don't do that nowadays. But it's like everything like that now. It's like, how does your work further social justice and equality? Like, how does it further justice and equality? People ask that. That's a question that people ask, that you're supposed to have an explanation for. And I'm like, if you ask me that, I'm like, it doesn't at all. I mean, it literally isn't even supposed to. Like, it's literally not about advancing justice, you know, or like whatever.
I guess that's the problem with grants, I guess. I mean,
but even just whatever. That's like a sort of very hyper concrete example. But just the way people talk about stuff, you know, it's just like, my work is changing the world. You know, it's just like, that's a very particular. No, I think art can change things politically, but the idea that it's like should or is supposed to, or that you have to be doing that, or that that's the primary purpose of it, that's what to me is kind of psycho, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think people will always have grandiose ideas about their art, but my favorite thing about this is like this great interview with William Gaddis, who's one of my favorite writers, and the line that they're, you know, the reader may experience an eerie sense of recognition on the back is kind of a riff on The Recognitions, that book, which is just like a monument of post-war fiction that a lot of people don't read because it's just so difficult.
I know Gaddis is the author you're talking
about?
Yeah, okay.
William Gaddis, but like he there's a good panel discussion on YouTube that has Joshua Cohen and Tom McCarthy on it, both of whom I really respect. But there's a great interview with him where he's basically like, you know, Tolstoy thought that he was going to like change Russia and like save Russia and stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, I sort of like to feel that way, and I kind of have to believe it, but like I know it's just not the case at all, and like nobody, like so few people are like reading my books, and you know, it's just not gonna do anything.
Well, I don't know, butterfly effect, you know.
I guess, but I mean, I'm just saying that the idea of yeah, I mean, well, I mean, I think you have to be, I think you have to be utopian. I just think I guess the thing that I think is funny is the idea of like a kind of fascist art that would like just like dominate everything, because that seems delusional. Whereas the idea of an art that has like has more sort of like modest or more relevant or concrete like objectives, or even doesn't have like overt political aims, but there's like an intelligence to it that means that it is going to change people's minds and make people think and whatever. I think,
yeah. Sorry.
but I think the idea of art, like if you're gonna if you write a book and you're just like, or make a record and you're like, this will show them, like this will really, burn down the establishment. Like, of course it's not going to. Like, I mean, I love the record, like The Future Is Now by Nonfiction. That's such a good record.
Yeah, I gotta check him out. Yeah, you're talking about
Nonfiction. I mean, it's a rapper. It's Gore-Tex, Ill Bill, and another guy. But it's like, it's just so conspiracy pilled. It's like there's a track, like one of the songs is like, and then it repeats at the end, is something about how like the CIA is like trying to kill us and like this and that, and it's just like, they're gonna, like, this is revolution, man. Like, this is like, and it's weird. It's a weird mixture of like gangster rap and like conscious rap.
Yes, that's right. It's
like Gore-Tex back when he still was sort of conscious rap, and he has a line where he's just like, "It's all love, man," and he never says, you would never say that now. Like,
whatever happens to the word conscious, I love that. I forgot about conscious.
Yeah,
like in reference to rap, I don't think.
Oh yeah. Well, I feel like the Future Is Now sort of is conscious rap-esque, but it's also like just very dark and like it has this conspiracy pilled vibe. But I mean, I'm sure when they made that record, they were thinking like, yeah, this is going to shake up the establishment. But it's like some underground record that like so few people really know about. It's a great record, but it's like, really.
I mean, we get that idea that it's often ridiculous to think that your weird esoteric music's going to change the world politically, even though I agree that's kind of ridiculous. Yeah, there's definitely art that I love that thinks that, like particularly like Luigi Nono. Like I always bring him up, as like, I mean, do you fuck with Nono very much?
I'm not that familiar. I feel like either him or Barrio. A friend of mine was doing a research project on.
I'll send you some Nono. Whatever. He's just like super communist, like super revolutionary. Like in his mind, this shit and the text and everything, it is just like this hard line, like left wing propaganda. But it's like the music itself. It's like some of my favorite, like 20th century classical music. Period. But it's like the idea that it's doing that is just like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? But it's like, but him thinking that fuels this inspiration, this like grand vision, so it's awesome that he thinks that, even though it's like, I mean, I'm just like, this is not some proletarian shit. This is like isolated weird sounds with a lot of silence and like 20-minute pieces that are just like tiny little fragile sounds. I mean, it's like,
right. Well, that's the thing that seems so preposterous about Adorno's obsession with Schoenberg. Like Schoenberg is somehow revolutionary when so few people can like appreciate it, or like it's
that's what I'm
and I think I mean, for me it's all about Brecht. Like I've been watching like the Three Penny Opera and like or the Pabst film of Three Penny. I don't know, I think Brecht is really cool as somebody who's like he's not delusional, like he's kind of cynical, but he is clearly like trying to change things in a smart way. And
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, like I can get into it. This is at least just on the level of passion and vitality, that's something that someone's politics could lend a serious vital passion, to what they're doing, and the sort of flames just on the level of straight vitalism, but I just really roll my eyes, worse than roll my eyes, like straight up resist, just the very contemporary thing of the past 5 or 10 years, where it's just like assumed, like I burned a couple of bridges on Twitter of people who actually are like kind of, I didn't make enemies, but I just like, I think I alienated a couple of people who really are like movers and shakers in the sort of contemporary classical world, because they were tweeting and retweeting the shit that this guy's tweet that said, if you are the idea of being an apolitical artist is just simply false. Any like if you're not trying to quote unquote challenge the status quo, then you're not a real artist. like the definition of art is to challenge the status quo, and I was just like, this is killing art. Like, this is jive. Like, this is a jive fucking perspective. You know what I mean? I was just like, the fact that people think this,
especially if it's this like Adornoian Schoenberg like thing, like that's gonna change the world versus like you know, really rarefied shit that like nobody, you know, well, some people listen to it, but you know, but it's like versus stuff that is sort of, I feel like there's a socialist realist vibe in a way to your work, because I mean you're harnessing rock music and, you know, a kind of, which is inherently sort of propagandistic and sort of you know, it's it's like delivering a message that's like fairly clear, and it's fairly well, I'm not, I mean the music itself, I mean I guess I'm you know, you know, like somebody who was like a jazz nerd who appreciates like the weirdness of it, but I feel like apart from like all the jangle, like the dissonance and the opaqueness of it, there's it is, you know, they are you know, you're, well, it's not all you do, but when you're doing like art rock stuff, it's like songs, and especially, I mean, Psalm Zero I think is pretty legible, you know.
Yeah, we were
like,
trying to do that. Yeah,
and it's sort of so I mean it's not, I don't know, not necessarily propaganda, but it's like it is disseminating like a fairly clear, like it's disseminating a message that like you have to get into the message to some degree to like listen to it. It's not like this opaque, I don't know, like I mean you're doing new classical stuff, but like I'm guessing maybe these people that you're talking about on Twitter were like, maybe they're just doing like nerdy like
instrumental music and shit. Yeah,
and that is yeah, I think that's what's, man, that's what I mean. I really am fascinated by Adorno like more and more over the years, but he's so weird and like delusional about so many things. And it's like the thing about, you know, it's like the less people like pay attention to your art, the better the art is, probably, you know.
But this is why I'm kind of fascinated to like return to Adorno, because we're actually we're doing book club now in the Last Things Discord. Man, if you want to get in on book club,
oh, if you're doing a book club, I guess
no, man, it would be dude, the Discord is
book
it's
club.
not,
I love that. That's
no, dude, the Last Things, it's substance. It's not like some fan club for me or something. It's like it's a hang. It's a fucking hang. Like but yeah, we're starting minimum moralia this week.
Oh, that's a deep book.
Yeah. Like, but yeah, there is this vibe where he's like, it's like this hardcore leftist vibe, but there's an elitism to it or something. You know, there's
it's
like this hyper.
So elitist. It's like the most elitist, because it's like intellectual, you know, kind of like academic. I guess you could say like cathedral like elitism, where it's just like look how fucking smart I am, probably smarter than you. Like, try to follow my fucking opaque ass, like, you know, writing, you know. It's like well, I'm thinking of like negative dialectics and like aesthetic theory, where it's the idea that like if you think about something in a way that's like ridiculously complex, that's somehow and like impossible to like, you know, you would have to be an academic to understand it, because you would have to just like study it.
I couldn't like, understand.
You would never and the whole thing. And then whenever he's writing about culture, like it's either like he's writing this really like kind of impenetrable commentary on classical music, or else he's just writing this ridiculously dismissive stuff, not just about like jazz and like mass culture or popular music, but he'll say, you know, he thinks that like film is an inherently reactionary medium. You couldn't possibly ever make a film that like would have any effect on any, you know.
That's fucking sick. Maybe he's right. Like maybe film.
He's such a grumpy old.
Maybe that's why film is sick, because it's reactionary. I don't know, but
I mean,
like,
I have nothing with against spectacle. Like, you know, I love like, you know, Scorsese and like De Palma and Kubrick, and my brother's in the film industry, and I want to move in that direction. I mean, I would love to make a fucking Hollywood movie that was like mad spectacular, you know, and like
Yeah.
just, you know,
I didn't know that though, that Adorno is just he's like not down with film because it's like
he's
inherently
like
not left wing or whatever the fuck
yeah,
he
it's like
thinks. You know?
it's like it's just absurd. I mean, he doesn't
Well, his vibe seems to me like with the music stuff, it's like it's left it's a reactionary leftism or a an elitist left. It it's like he's like capitalism is dark, but he's like it's not just dark because it exploits people. It's dark because it liquidates these traditional values, or
well,
like it liquidates traditional aesthetics and like things that
I
were
think
high, right?
I think he sees it as producing like conformity, or at least that's how I read it, as producing
Yes.
just like an insane level of conformity.
Yeah.
And I think as a thinker of like conformism, as an anti-conformist thinker, he's so interesting. But the examples he gives are so retarded, like are so ridiculous. When he's like in the writings on the culture industry and stuff, because
Yeah.
I keep reading that stuff because it's so interesting, and yeah, he is so smart, and there's always like nuggets of like smartness in it, but it's like mixed with stuff that you're just like, what the fuck, you know, what are you talking about, you know, like it's just like yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean the writing about jazz, I mean, I can't remember if he uses the word degenerate, but I mean it's definitely a critique. It's definitely like the idea is that it is degenerate art. I mean,
he says something funny like I noticed recently, like he's like the jazz musicians like improvisations uh appear to be like free and creative, but they merely reproduce like the rhythms of the existing system or something like that. Like
it's like right.
it's
It's like
just like
yeah,
it's
just
like
say
you were like, what are you on? Like that you like, you know, you think yeah, it is this very pretentious you know, it's funny, like this is, I mean, this is maybe just self-indulgent to veer off just for a second though, but
no,
the whole
please.
idea of if you think about gender and like male intellectual, you know, I recently read I don't quote unquote agree with it, or I don't you can't really take it seriously, of course, but I finally read the Scum Manifesto in its entirety. It's so crazy,
I
like
haven't read that, but
he makes so many good points. It's like preposterous, but it's
which
just like, but it's
what is
like
the is that's like some 70s feminism where it's just like men are absolute garbage and must be destroyed or something,
yeah,
right? It's
yeah. Like that book, Females of Concern by Andrea Long Chu is like riffing on that book, but the Scum Manifesto is so much more hardcore than Long Chu's book, which I think is an okay book, but it's like, man, it's crazy because just in terms of psychology, male psychology, and the it's like the way, you know, this idea that all men hate themselves and like they secretly want to be women and like all this shit. I don't know. It's kind of bullshit, but it's just
it
the
sounds
funny.
like bullshit, but I want to
No,
read
it
it.
is bullshit. It is
I
bullshit.
totally want to read that.
It's bullshit, but like it's interesting, and she actually does make some like good points, at least from a psychological point of view.
Right,
But
right,
like,
right.
but there's this stuff about like you know, male intellectuals and how, oh, like men are so deep with their philosophy and they just want to like go on and on and on about this, you know, and whereas like the groovy, she keeps describing women as groovy, like that's the adjective she keeps, and
Well,
it's so funny because she's so violent, and like she shot Andy Warhol.
that's like, you know, women, that's like women are like the magic negro of gender or whatever, right? I mean,
Manic
this sort of
Pixie, the Manic Pixie
the
dream.
intuitive funky fresh other or whatever, you know. It's like, right? I mean, it's
I
like
mean, I think it's funny. I like it's just I like the word groovy,
what is this,
but
from 70s or 80, or what is it? It's
I think it's the 70s. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty short. But just yeah, the idea of like male at least Solanus' specific notion of like man as pompous, uh, philosophical, you know, the, you know, posturers or whatever, I think is kind of interesting. But it's like it's kind of bullshit. But it's kind of interesting. I mean I've been thinking about this a lot, I guess, and because it's kind of true. I mean, I just think, you know, the I think from a male point of view, and like from the point of view of my own like male privilege or whatever, I do feel increasingly, especially as I'm thinking about the idea of like transitioning or whatever, that there is this just that the degree that I had, I've really like I feel like throughout my life I've just underestimated like the sheer degree of sexism and hatred towards women that there is in society. Like that women are really hated and they're viewed as like idiots, and they're just sex objects, and it's like it's kind of true. I mean, there's something to that, I think. And so I was telling you like last night, this idea that if you're a lot of my favorite trans theorists are Jack Halberstam and Paul Preciado, and they're both female to male, which seems like an upgrade, whereas like male to female is like downgrading. It's like you're choosing. It's like this, becoming minor. Like you're choosing to like, or at least you have to. At least I'm thinking about that idea that it's almost like I would be like just choosing a subaltern position, which is kind of like fucked up. But it's like, obviously that's not the reason I would transition. That would be one of the reasons to not transition.
Well, but saying you're like choosing, I mean, this is
different. No, I know that's the thing. Well, actually, that's one of the things Butler says over and over. You don't choose your gender. It's not something that you choose. So I think that's true.
Yeah. See, this is a lot of I actually have no response to that. I have like no idea what to say that, Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. No, but I'm glad you said that though, because that's like I just noticed you said choose. But maybe you mean something by that goes against what Butler says about gender. I mean, you know what I mean? Maybe you saying choose means something that
what do you mean?
Well, I mean, I was just pointing out that you said like if you chose, like you would be choosing to.
Well, it would be a decision. I mean, to transition, like I keep using the metaphor of like pulling the trigger, because it's like thinking about it, and then there's like, all right, I'm going to do it, right? That is a decision. I mean, of course, there are probably deep unconscious psychological reasons for it that I don't really even understand. I think.
Yeah.
But like to decide to transit. I mean, again, it's like I'm not 100% sure about it.
Yeah, which is cool to hear you talk about, because I've just never really talked to any of my friends. I've had several friends transition at this point, but yeah, I've never talked to them where they're just kind of like, where and also where you're just kind of like, you seem like you're feeling good about it. I mean, I know you said you have like some anxiety. No, you said you feel alienation, but I don't know. You don't seem to be spazzing out about it. You seem like curious.
Well, I do that. I do that in private.
Private, okay.
I mean, privately, I'm just like huddled, like reading like Butler and like massive anxiety, dysmorphia, whatever, But I can keep it. I mean, it's just a public appearance, so like.
Dude, you can go wild, man.
What do you mean?
No, I don't know. That's the thing.
We have situationist.
No, I don't know. We haven't had any like really intense emotion on the live stream yet. Like someone just fucking waterworks,
losing it. Like that video. You remember that video from like the early days of the internet where the guy's like, leave Britney alone. You remember that video?
No.
Oh man, it's like this gay guy like with like eyeliner that's like running, and he's just like really like hysterical, and he's just like, leave Britney alone, like there's all this thing about Britney's this shit about.
Yeah, we'll have to get. I want some of that energy on the stream. Yeah, no, but okay. So you have anxiety about it. I mean, dude, it must be a lot to wrestle with, man. It really, but yeah, I don't know. It's just like really, it's inspiring actually just to talk to a friend who's at this point with it and who's wants to talk about that it's a question mark, that it's up for,
I mean, hopefully, well, maybe this is potential. I mean, hopefully it's a really radical, like sick thing to do. No, I mean, I just thought, I thought it would be kind of cool to just express my like total like not total confusion, but just like my uncertainty, because I just feel like I have to talk about it at this point. If I don't talk, I mean, it really is like if I don't talk about it now, I would just fucking kill myself. If I felt like I couldn't just talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, dude, I mean, I hope this is a safe space, you know. I hope, and I hope the alt lit world is for you. You know, it sounds like you do have places where you can,
No, I mean, I feel the
you
thing
know.
is, I feel very confident. Like, honestly, like I struggle with like pain and shit. Like, privately, I have my melancholy and this sort of pathos of being just like vulnerable and like feeling helpless and pathetic and but it's like at the end of the day, I think I'm pretty well, not just quote unquote privileged, but yeah, like I think I know how to move around in the world, and I think
Yeah,
if anything, I just like hope that like my words here and like just in general going forward, talking about it and thinking about it and making art about it or whatever, could have a positive impact, and that people could who are struggling with similar shit could identify with it or whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Um, yeah. Well, dude, that's awesome, man. Maybe this is a good cadence point. You know, 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
All right.
You know, we did 2.5. Um, and I mean, yeah, I hope we addressed everything that you wanted to get into, man. I feel like I have a way greater sense of where you're at, and I hope the
Well,
listeners do too. You know?
I mean, I feel like we could keep going in the sense that
Oh, do you want? Okay.
I don't know if I want to end on such a personal
Oh, okay.
note because it feels like this is like a analysis session or something where it's like,
Oh, okay.
okay, like let's stop there, like,
Oh, right, 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 right. No, I know.
like maybe
No,
we
I
could
feel it. I feel it.
discuss some more, like, or I could maybe if I read some more and then we just
Good. Okay. Yeah. Let's
answer
read another
just
passage.
for a
I'm going
few
to turn on
more.
the light here too. Hold on. Yeah. Well, actually, now it's even darker with the light. But anyway, yeah. Um, yeah, 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 yeah. Read some more. Read some more of the. Yeah, maybe something from the middle. I don't know, or whatever. Yeah,
All right,
whatever
yeah.
feels most relevant.
Um, okay, this is a good part. This is section 5. Fei Shen, nipples cauterized, drooled like a slorg slave, possibly a glue troll or a void larva, slurping down cooler tea like a sleepy brood golem. Oh, the ailments of the throat and lungs. Always a crusty greased goblin X. Sure, he'd seen some colorful vistas of characters hanging around the prison section of the complex all around enclosure. The complex was a diverse cluster plus enclosure of villages sequestered in claw dance slash vibratime slash ultra tutelage slash within the walls of prison, inside of church, inside of mall, on top of hill, a spiral, etc., smooth ass mucus intestinally nested. Shady crooks and drag, as fanatical as Nazis, fuck each other in the ass in the slimy, vermin-ridden, sewage crooked corridors of the impossible castle vortex. All in of it melted glue. And inside of it all, sure, snarled all matter of sin and trash with vortex twisted horror humor whirled and rattled, jizzled around in the blinding air molecules, impregnating grotesque DNA in your veins with shards of plutonium, the air hot with the stench that could derange all the senses, like the viral fetid center of an expensive vintage wine's foamy black bouquet. But this ain't no Madeleine. It's government mandated ambient odor and the delirium it induces is enforced by syringe wielding mind cops, dressed in their hilarious frippery, grotesque Gore-Tex folds of runway style jackets with Swarovski crystalled runes and faces foul as Alfred Cuban's most lucid and distorted nightmares. Symmetrical Bindi Rorschach eyes swastika canceled. A Halloween purity party with Frankenstein's Randy Bride. Symmetrical fascist muscle relaxed goat poppers. You're dressed as Darth Vader, twisted double helix history books about the Great War, and a set of false eyelashes like your girlfriend likes to wear.
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, this isn't the deepest commentary. We could go deeper, but I mean, we both love Cool Keith, man. And I mean, there's just intestinally nested. You know, it's just like
It's so funny because I was listening to Cool Keith a while ago, and my dad like kind of walked by, and he was like, "Wow, he's really like anally fixated."
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. He's always talking about like the rectum and like prolapses and like yeah, but like intestinally nested. I mean, I feel like it's clear that you're a rap fan from this prose.
I mean, I've been
style,
thinking
yeah.
like it would be cool to put out a rap album at some point if I can get my shit together in that regard. But it's not super high on my bucket list, but it would be cool. I mean, yeah, I am a really big rap fan, and yeah, I think more and more like over the years I get more serious about it, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Do you consider this book cyberpunk? I mean, what do you think? I know that's like retro '90s shit, but
I would
I
almost call it like Dadaist, because in the sense that, yeah, I think it's coming more from that kind of a vibe, um, in terms of it being sort of like a collage or sort of like chaotic, but like in terms of the difference, Dadaism versus surrealism, like surrealism has more sort of metaphysical pretensions, and I feel like there's a deconstructive thing with this book. But I guess you could, yeah, you could see it as cyberpunk. I mean, it's funny, I didn't choose that cover image of the with the
oh yeah,
it has like the guy with the dark sunglasses and the fucking bandana and shit.
yeah, yeah.
uh but that does make it seem more cyber. Well, there's this stuff about, like I mentioned, the film Videodrome. And
Oh, dude, yeah, one of the greatest, man. I mean,
yeah, and yeah, Cronenberg in general.
oh,
You know, my favorite is actually Maps to the Stars. I think it's like my favorite Cronenberg.
dude, you're picking the one that I have not seen.
Oh, all right. Well, also, what's it called? The Brood? Is that what
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
called?
yeah, yeah. The Brood is so sick. Yeah, yeah,
Scanners. I mean, he's genius. He's a genius.
yeah, yeah. He's amazing.
Apparently, he wrote a novel that's really good.
No shit.
Yeah, yeah. Will Bernardara told me about it. Yeah,
Yeah,
uh,
but
there's
I don't
a
know. Yeah, I mean, I only thought cyberpunk just because it's like it's got that near future vibe, where it's like the most futuristic elements of now plus a little extra. That to
that's
me
a
always
good way to
has
put it. Yeah,
that always has like a cyberpunk vibe to me, and just a lot of stuff about just like the body and like stuff going into the body, the sort of limits of the body and technology and shit like that.
yeah,
It's not sci-fi exactly what you're writing at all. Actually, it's not sci-fi, but
yeah.
yeah,
Um, I actually have there's a great poem that I didn't write, but it's like a classic poem from, I actually forget the poet, but he's one of the original quote unquote New York poets, and it's called Soft Man 3. I think he has like Soft Man 1, Soft Man 2, Soft Man 3, and I did a reading, a kind of ironic, quasi ironic, because I stopped to take a bong hit in the middle of it, reading of
uh-huh.
it, and it's on my SoundCloud. Um, and well, I don't know. Anyways, people can check that out if they want. It's just a cool poem because it speaks to this idea of it's like the last line is something like set reset button to blob culture or something, and there's like this thing like machine faggot like sucking down, like it's all this idea of just like being reduced to a complete pulp, like by some kind of sinister system or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Which I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I can identify with. I mean, I feel like it's sort of like something I have a sense of irony about. I mean, all that stuff is complicated. Paul Preciado, though, kind of speaks to this with this idea of the pharmacopornographic. Like one thing that he says, like he wrote a book called Pornotopia about the Playboy Mansion, and
Mm-hmm.
the Countersexual Manifesto, Testo Junkie. But he says something about like how like I mean, I'm sure you wouldn't agree with this, but that like there's like nobody's heterosexual anymore, or if you are still heterosexual, you're a pharmacopornographic heterosexual. Like this idea, just this idea of biopower, and that you can't escape this sort of system or something. What, I don't know, like this. I mean, it's like also with Groys, there's this idea of self-design and like uh, being sort of maybe it's like a mix of like receptivity and editing the way that you have been designed, or the way that you have been manipulated or interpolated or
Are
whatever.
you saying because that's more available now that no one is really heterosexual anymore?
Well, not no. I mean, it's sort of. I mean, that's sort of like Preciado having a sort of militant agenda or something. But it's just no, it's just the idea that whether or not whatever your orientation is, you're shaped by this pharmacopornographic system, which is it's sort of like some kind of combination of like the medical establishment, like psychiatry, and but also like surgery or whatever hormones, and then I guess not necessarily pornography as such, but maybe the pornographic in a more general sense, including like certain forms of mass media, whatever, advertising. Just the body, the bodies are sort of produced, and you can sort of intervene in that. You can have agency, but the only way to have agency is to first realize the way in which you're produced by like that system, I guess. Which I think is probably the most cyberpunk like thing about the book, I think.
And the idea that was not always the case, and now it is. Is that?
Sure. Yeah. It's a different. Yeah. There's a historical. Yeah.
There's a historical thing about it, right?
I mean, Bresciano is like I guess sees himself as I mean, he writes these sort of manifesto like books, or like, but also I guess he's like sort of a historian of sexuality, and like
okay.
I think that's an idea that I mean, I guess I haven't really thought about it that much, but I think that's probably coming from Foucault and the question of like different epistemes. And I mean, I do think that like the way people think about sexuality is changing. I think it makes sense that there's a sense of that there's a territoriality that like comes out, like when, in the sense that if there are people who are like really dedicated to like deconstructing categories and stuff, and I guess I would put myself in that camp, there are naturally going to be people who are like, no, fuck it, I don't want to like deconstruct anything, like I don't want to deconstruct my gender, like fuck you. Which is fine, like that's
right. I haven't seen this dude Marcus in the comments for a long time. Hey, have you been looking at the comments at all, James?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it sort of does. I don't know. Marcus has got a very challenging comment at the last minute, but perhaps. Yeah, I don't think James hates men, dude. I mean, I don't.
Wait, what did you say? No, I don't.
Well, you could look at you can click on comments on the side and see.
Women are hated. Are men pretty hated, especially men like James? If gender sex is not. Well, I didn't say it wasn't real. That's definitely not what I said at all.
Yeah.
That's not. I mean, like with Judith Butler. I mean, if you read Butler, like the way she thinks about gender, it's so complex. Like it's a very complex. I also think it's non-binary inherently, but like women are hated. Yeah, I mean the question of how much people are hated, I don't know. I'm not gonna like insist on that point that like women are hated. But there is
it's something you've been saying. I mean, it's
something
you perceive.
I think Andrea Dworkin is a good feminist who like deals with that idea of like that resentment of like being hated or like being having violence done. That she writes about pornography a lot too, in a way that I don't agree with. But
well, she's very out of fashion, right? I mean,
but Lizzie loved her. Lizzie was like obsessed with Dworkin, which is so weird to me because she was like a sex worker and shit. And
well, this is, I mean, I like some kind of sex negative shit, man. I mean, it's like, just some shit where it's just like everyone's kinks are all valid. I'm like, are they? I mean, some of this stuff's just fucked up. I don't know. I mean, like,
well, if you're talking about like child pornography or like stuff movies.
Well, that's not a kink though. That's more like, but whatever. Yeah. I mean, but you definitely do not hate men, James. I mean, I don't know if.
No, I don't think I resent. I mean,
I didn't get that. I didn't really get that from anything you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That seems like a stretch, but yeah. And he asks like, why would you transition to the opposite sex if gender is like? Well, yeah, you said you didn't say that gender's not real. Also, I don't know, transitioning to the opposite sex. I mean, the idea is that you already are the opposite sex, or gender, not sex, I guess.
In a sense, I mean, I think that there is a certain indeterminacy. Like I've been thinking of it in terms of like, I wonder if I could put a number, like what's the probability, statistical probability that I'll transition or something, you know, like because I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. But I think if you transition, you are. I mean, in my case, I would be wanting to become a woman. Like that would be the whole point. So I'm not saying, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that is different though than how other people talk about it, though, because you were talking about becoming a woman, whereas a lot of people would say I always was one.
Well, yeah, I think
Those are
different
two
people,
different
different
ways.
trans people look at it different
It's
ways.
a different. Yeah.
I
So
mean, I think in some sense, I always have had these sort of androgynous tendencies and shit, and it's not, but it's like it's not one of these things where, well, like Preciado, one of the ways in which I really relate to Preciado is he talks about how like his transition was like almost like a philosophical experiment and had consisted of setting contracts with himself. And then almost it was like this experiment sort of. And I think it's kind of like that for me. I don't know. I'm a nerd. And I think about it in a nerdy way. But I also see it as kind of like an art project.
You're kind of a little bit more on the Genesis Peorage version of it.
I don't really know that much about Genesis Peorage, but I mean, they seem.
Well, I mean, that it was just sort of part of her art to some extent.
Well,
I
relate to Preciado specifically because of this book Testo Junkie, of transitioning and doing testosterone, which was at that time where they were living, it was illegal, and writing about that. And I was thinking like, what if I wrote like Estro Junkie and or Estro Fiend or something. I Googled it, and there's like some dumb Substack post called Estro Junkie, which is kind of annoying, but it's not the same as the title being taken. But something like, I would do something like that because I'm a fucking weirdo.
Yeah. Some people don't want to be identified, or some people don't want to be thought of as a weirdo. You know?
No, that's what I'm not a project. Yeah, I mean, I'm a specific person.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but this is the thing with a lot of times when people are talking about gender and trans shit. It's like I'm always most interested in just what that specific person means. You know what I mean? Like what it means to that person. You know, because it's just like it's never the same. You know, it's never exactly the same.
I mean, for example, I mean, like Hunter Hunt Hendricks. I think the way she thinks about her gender is taught. Maybe I'm overstepping, but I've had the sense that it's tied to her work, but in a different way, like in a way that relates to some kind of mystical view of gender or something. Maybe not, I don't know, but I'm just saying that like that's a different. I thought it was awesome and brave that the way she transitioned and the way she talked about it, but I think I have a completely different. Just in terms of other people in the scene and shit.
Well, see, that's the thing. I've known her for like 17 years or something like that. It's funny because I was totally surprised when she said that she was going to transition, but then at the same time, once she did, I was like, dude, why was I surprised? Like, how did I not see that? Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of one of those kind of. Yeah. I felt like I had been a little bit out of touch, maybe with where she was at. Like, just that I would be surprised and that I didn't perceive that already. But
yeah, I mean, I think some people like already assume that about me. Maybe sometimes, maybe not in a nice way, but not everybody. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm good at being male, if that makes sense, or performing it or whatever. But I mean, I think I might maybe be losing interest in that. I'm not sure.
Yeah. And you don't have to be sure. That's what's fun, I guess.
That's my whole point.
It's what makes it inspiring or interesting. You know what I mean?
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, man. What is next? That's a good question for you. I mean, what do you got? You're talking about moving into theater directions or something. I mean, do you have like a new project? Like, are you like, have you started a new project, or are you just kind of like?
Well, I think mainly I'm editing the Cotton Candy World Soul.internet zine that I did with Liz. That's kind of my main. I've just been so broken up about that, among other things, and I've been having trouble writing. I mean, I haven't really been writing that much. I've been making blog posts, just to sort of stay doing shit. But I think, I'm thinking about film and theater and shit. I mean, but this whole idea of like transitioning, I think that's kind of the thing that's like taking up all my mental energy right now. Like, just like thinking about that, and then how does it relate to my work? And then if I decide that I'm not going to transition, that it was a mistake, that I was wrong, I'm still going to do work that's really queer and weird or transgressive or whatever.
Yeah.
But maybe just drag or just whatever, some kind of queer theater shit.
Yeah. Sick. You don't hear about drag as much lately. That's sort of, it's not as much in the discourse, because transness is so front and center. Drag is this other thing. You just don't hear as much.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
personally, like, yeah, I love like glamour and sort of like camp, trashy, like
Yeah.
trashy. I feel like I would be like a trashy goth chick, like. Girl. But that's also, see, that's the thing, is I'm thinking like, well, is that just like a sort of male gaze thing that I'm projecting, and like, if I really think about it, and if I did transition, would the kind of bodies and the kind of aesthetics in terms of drag, or because drag, I mean, with drag, it's like clothing and makeup, and that's part of being a woman, but it's not, being a woman isn't like, it's not a costume that you put on if you're actually a woman. So that's but yeah, no, just thinking, I just have to think about a lot of these different questions and figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm fucking hyped. I'm hyped.
By the way, if anyone's like interested, my blog, Ethereal Negativity, I could put a link, has a whole post that kind of mood boards this film that I was going to make, which now I'm seeing as possibly, I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say that it's mood boarding my transition, but it's related to that.
We could. We'll
On an
also.
aesthetic level, that's the private chat. Wait a minute. Oh, that doesn't.
Well, we will put. I'll put this in the fucking, what do you call it? Yeah, that's the private chat. But that's good. Good. I got it in the private chat. I'll put it in the description of the video.
Okay.
I'll put that and a link to whatever else you want.
Yeah.
Linked in there.
I mean, that was written as well. Anyways, like I was saying, when I was working on that, I was thinking of it as a drag project in a film, and I have a script that goes with it. There's some excerpts from the script there, and it's just sort of like, I guess Dennis Cooper mood boards shit on his blog. So
does he? I haven't.
Apparently, I just heard him say that. But yeah, fuck it. It's like, I feel this is very makes me very exposed in a way, because but this is it's just like, from a purely aesthetic point of view, the way that I'm thinking about at least maybe certain kinds of topologies and angles and shit, like, I guess about the body if I were female.
Yeah.
No, but and other ideas, also related to being interpolated by a sinister capitalist regime, because it's about the script itself is about this sort of ingenue character, kind of like Richard Foreman's film Strong Medicine, although might be more like Center Jenny by Ryan Trey Carton or something like that.
Yeah, dude, this is. I'm psyched to see this theatrical bent, man. This new direction. It's
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna take a while before I can really produce shit. I need to like get funds and different. Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff in the works that'll eventually come out, and so yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Well, dude, this is a good fucking. This is a cool moment for you, man. I'm glad. I don't know. I'm glad. It's exciting, dude. We've known each other for a while, and I don't know, man. I've almost feel not bad exactly, but I'm like, man, I feel like I haven't known what's up with you as much as I feel like I should have or something. You know what I mean?
Well, I think I was more. I mean, like when we were initially interacting, I was a lot more kind of closeted about like my queerness or whatever. I think I was more insecure about it, and yeah.
Yeah, like because I feel like we like I guess the little bit that we talk about women, it would have sort of a, I mean, like a somewhat broed out kind of, you know what I mean, like very like normal hetero like hot goth chicks, bro, like like just kind of like that,
Well, it's like I think if I were a woman, I would like that sort of lewdness would probably not go away. But.
Right. Yeah. No, totally. Well, yeah, see, that's the thing is certain things I like, maybe it's like assumptions I make, it's just like, why wouldn't, I mean, I knew you were queer to some extent, but it's like, I feel like I've just like learned a lot about you from this new book that I I feel like I should have been more in touch with in the first place, man,
That's cool. I mean, whatever. Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. It's fucking, and yeah, dude, it's a fucking sick book, man.
Thanks.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, dude. Well, what do you think, man?
I mean,
we got a solid 3 hours.
Yeah, I mean this was great.
It's a fucking whirlwind, dude. I'm so glad you came on, man. It's we should if you're into doing it again, it might be cool to for a while I was doing these. I went through a little phase that'll probably come back where the whole thing would be like I would talk with someone about a specific record. That could be fun if you ever wanted to come on again.
A record comes to mind immediately, which is a record. Well, not a record, but a band that you recommended that I really got into. Watching from a Distance by Warning.
Oh, bro!
Speaking of like courtly love and shit,
yes.
Interested in Isolde. I was also thinking Isolde would be kind of a pretentious name.
Isolde, that would be sick if you went Isolde.
It would be kind of pretentious, but I mean Julia, if it's a reference to Side, is pretentious.
It's already pretty high minded, But yeah, man, let's keep that on the table, man. Let's keep once it's been a while, man. I'm gonna hit you up and see if you're still down to do that. Talk about Warning, man. That would be fun.
That would be sick, man. Warning is so fucking good. I mean,
it's amazing,
Like,
and I mean,
you were the first person to hit me to Cool Keith too. I mean, like,
oh really? Did I hip you?
Those are the two things that like you hit me to that were like the most mind blowing was Cool Keith and in a sense you could say I would have discovered Cool Keith eventually, anyways. But the fact that you said you thought it was Deleuzian, I think it's so funny.
Oh, he's so fucking Deleuzian, man. Oh my god.
Well, but he's not literally Deleuze. He's like you could read Deleuze into him, like.
Well, it's like I mean, it has. Some
I don't know if he's reading Deleuze. Is he I mean.
No, I mean I don't think so. I mean I've never heard him talk about like touchstones, like philosophical touch.
Yeah, but Warning, man, like that record is so deep. Watching from a Distance, it's like I haven't even listened to their other or that guy's other stuff because that record in itself is just such a such a revelation that it's just like something I just periodically come back to, and it's just like
it's the
it's mystical. It's like fucking mystical.
No, it's amazing. But yeah, I mean, you're like that's the thing is like you're also. I mean, in addition to being a writer, I mean, you're very much like a cultural critic. And so, I mean, so much of your stuff on your blog is talking about culture and other people's work and stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like, so that could be, that could be good if we tackled a record,
Right.
But yeah, man. But yeah, so check out in the description. I have a link to James's blog and to you have a couple of blogs, right? But Vampirology.
I have like 4 blogs. My goal is to have like 3 or 4. I want to get 7, and then I want to have an installation art show called 7 Blogs, like based on the blog. That's like it's not a secret anymore, but that's my plan. Because each blog is supposed to be like its own religion, kind of fictional religion.
Damn, man.
There's like Vampirology, Fairyism, Ethereal Negativity. Critical Orifice was the first one. that one was more well. Anyways, but if you look, if you could, if you put a link to my neutral spaces page, that has links to
Oh,
all,
that has all of them, right?
all this
Right.
stuff.
That's sort of like your hub. Yeah. Neutral space.
Well, that's just yeah, it's a good, it's a free website for writers to have.
Good. We'll put that up there.
Um,
Yeah. Sick, man.
okay, there's the neutral spaces.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. I'll put this in there. Yeah, man. Well, dude, again, thank you so much for coming by, dude.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate this, Charlie. This is really fun.
Hell yeah, man. I appreciate everything you do and everything you have to say about it, man. It's
Thanks.
yeah, and I think the listeners
Likewise, man.
listeners,
Yeah, no, your work has been a big inspiration for me.
Yeah, man. I appreciate that. That's why that's why I wanted to talk about your shit, because when we talk half the time it's like about I feel like I'm taking up a lot of space with my shit, so I'm like,
well, it started with me like interviewing you and stuff.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I wanted to talk, flip it around a little bit. But yeah, man. All right. Well, we'll talk like very, very soon, obviously.
All right.
Sick, man. All right.
Peace.
Peace, James. Talk soon.